Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week, y'all. The middle of the week. Pray tell, what does that mean? It means we get to hear from our friend, the camel. Play it.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Yes, it is. It is hump day. It's the middle of the week. You guys are halfway to the weekend. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. But in the meantime, it's still middle of the week, and JP is pushing buttons on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm great. And today was one of the first days I walked out and said, I need a flannel. I need something. It's cold out here.
Had to throw on a layer.
It is now fall officially. And when my first time putting on extra layers, that's when it's fall, in my opinion. So
I gotta tell you. So I have this is like my whoopee. All right. I have this old fleece that is I don't wear a bathrobe, but when I'm around the house, if I'm cold, I wear this old fleece. It came out last night.
Yeah.
Because, technically the air conditioning is still on at the house.
Mine too. Yeah. I wake up like, holy crap, it's cold in there.
Like, good Lord. You walk around, the tile floor of the bathroom is freezing.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. Coming up here, beginning of hour number 2, John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, is going to be on. He's also, by the way, chairman of the Alabama Public Library Board, which is like the center of controversy in the world right now. So John Wall coming on with us at the beginning of hour number 2 to give us the latest updates on all of that and more. That's John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. And then beginning at the top of hour number 3, it's Wednesday. We hear from the camel at the beginning, and towards the end, we catch the Grand Council with my brethren Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. So stand by for that. Grand Council beginning hour number 3, and there's still a triple dipper, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, going to cook up a batch of home fries, baby. Home fries. Sometimes you got to talk about what's happening in your own backyard, things that are happening in and around and amongst you. So, yeah, coming up at the beginning of the show, the first dipper is going to be home fries, assuming we can truly get to it. We'll talk about that in a minute. Number 2, I don't know how else to put this. I went ahead and put the dipper's name as making common sense common again. That's where we are. I mean, even some Democrats, some like John Fetterman, making common sense common again. I got some great stories on that. We'll talk about that coming up number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, like I said, assuming I can get to it, military minded. There's some great new stories. I'll even touch on one here a minute in my monologue, but there's some great stories coming out of the U.S. military right now. I'm loving what I'm seeing, to be honest with you. As a retired 06, I'm just telling you, I love what I'm seeing. As the dad of an 04, I'm loving what I'm seeing. As somebody who lives our country, I love what I'm seeing. So yeah, military-minded, number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys, as always, that the illustrious attorney Stan McDonald is indeed the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, partner at the law firm of Wilbur and Lee. And oh, by the way, he is your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way. I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. All right, I referenced it a moment ago, but let me just say there's a lot of buzz out there right now in military circles. The liberal media has been waiting for what considered to be the great purge of 2025, the mass firing of every general and admiral in the ranks of our armed forces. But it's not happening. But what is happening is, first of all, a tightening of the standards, a return to warfighting, if you will, a determination to be a vaunted fighting force capable of defeating and deterring our enemies on the world stage. And to that end, there have been some firings and some so-called early retirements. But I got news. Someone's wearing multiple stars on their shoulders. It's really not an early retirement. It's just retirement because they likely already served for well over 3 decades. Now, that being said, there has been a change in some leadership positions. Yes, there has. And why not? Today, it was announced that President Trump has nominated Lieutenant General Christopher Lanieve, former division commander for the 82nd Airborne, to be the next Vice Chief of Staff of the Army. The man he's replacing is General James Mingus, who, by the way, worked for former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley. Mark Milley, there's a name that some would choose not to talk about. So the guy who's being replaced worked for Milley. The new guy coming in was the commander of the 82nd Airborne Division. Well, the liberal media is claiming this is heresy. This is questionable. This is unexpected. This shouldn't happen. And I'm calling bunk on that. You know why? Because the president needs to know that his military doctrine will be pursued, that his policies will be enforced, and that when he speaks to our allies and enemies as a commander-in-chief, that there's no one working in the back channels to undermine his authority. Lieutenant General Leneve, he looks like a warrior to me, and that's what Trump wants. That's what America needs. So let's talk about this, though. Let's talk about the bigger picture, not just that one assignment, but let's talk about the idea of what it means to actually have standards and to have loyalty in your folks. You ever watched an organization and found yourself wondering if anybody there had any idea how to herd cats? I mean, how do you take a bunch of differing opinions, different skill sets, widely different personalities, and you get them all to ride for the same brand? And oh, by the way, to ride in the same direction. Now, make no mistake, every single organization, every single team is made up of different folks with different backgrounds, and oftentimes they have differing opinions. But how do you harness those differences to create an organization that can accomplish the mission set before them? Well, I'll be honest, like many of you, I've watched the level of discord, the lack of consistent messaging, and the very questionable decisions that were made during the Biden era. And I also watched with dismay prior to that, as the deep state and the never-Trumpers who spent the first 4 years of Trump's first administration trying to undercut his every move. And I believe that both were a level of dysfunction unlike anything we've ever seen. Presidential administrations are unique animals. They are. They're not built over time. They don't have a great deal of legacy leadership. There's a short period of time between the election, where the hopes and dreams of what is gets to be put together, and on the same day, everybody walks into work, turns on the lights in their new offices. Support staff is often the same. There's some protocols and procedures, some bureaucrats that may be there. Some things have been codified, so you got to deal with them as they were. But unless the incoming administration has been effectively doing their due diligence well before they even win the election, the fact is they're putting together an entire organization in record time and then hoping for the best. For this reason, among others, there's no wisdom in choosing people to fill key roles on the basis of political payback or for the appearances of breaking some kind of glass ceiling or checking off a demographic box. You got to have all the right folks and all the right jobs to keep the ship moving in the right direction. And there absolutely must be an answer person at the top who can herd the cats. But that cat herding, it can only go so far. That cat herding can only go so far. The person in the office of the presidency has to be able to put a signature on something and defend it to the general public. You can only hide the dysfunction so long before the team becomes obviously and very apparently incapable of producing real results. Several years back, I had the honor of commanding an infantry battalion. It was truly one of the highlights of my military career. And when I took command, I issued what is often referred to as my command philosophy. It's an actual document that's formatted in Army style like a memorandum for record to all of my subordinate commanders, my senior NCOs, my troop leaders down to the squad level. It's a document that many commanders put together. It's a way of recounting the style, the preferences, the do's and the don'ts, and the expectations that sum up the manner in which the commander intends to lead the unit. So I did that. I put all my thoughts on paper, and I met with my staff and my leadership within about an hour of taking the guide on and assuming command, and I outlined it for them, and I gave every one of them a copy. But it was not something that I threw together for that occasion. It was a summation of lessons learned the hard way over years spent serving and leading in a variety of capacities, both civilian and military. Now, I won't bore you with all the details. Suffice to say, there were 3 key points that I told them that I wanted to see in our organization. 3 key points that I believe are part of what makes an organization work well. 3 things that if they're not all there, well, then it would mean we're not fully functioning. It's possible to get some things done with only one of the 3. It's likely you can even expect the organization to be viewed as moderately successful at times with 2 of the 3. But in my experience, an organization will never be able to fully operate with optimal skill and top-line results without all 3. I even had this done and posted on the wall of my team rooms during my deployments. I told my troops, my subordinate leaders, that the goal of the organization, here's the 3 things. You ready? The goal of any organization should be to be 3 things: proficient, effective, and cohesive. Those are the 3 things: proficient, effective, and cohesive. And if those 3 things are all there, clicking into place and kept there by strong leadership, then the organization will succeed against all stacked odds. So here's how I break them down. And this is why I'm talking about the reason why Trump is putting his people in place. his military generals are swapping out. He needs it because the first one, proficiency, what is that? Well, that equates to the individuals that have necessary skills for their respective positions, right? You got people that are proficient. There's no room for feel-good appointments or political payback. And an organization needs to know it has members that know their role and have the right level of training and education. Every member of the organization ought to strive to become the most qualified and knowledgeable person at their particular assignment. It's common among the members of any organization to have those go-to type people without whom the organization can't survive, but it's far less common to have such a high level of proficiency that the organization itself becomes the go-to organization because the time was taken to recruit and install the best and most proficient members. Proficiency, that's huge. All right, how about the second one? Effectiveness. You got proficiency, but what about effectiveness? Well, first of all, proficiency and effectiveness are not the same thing. An individual can be highly qualified, and they can also be the most, proficient at their position, but then be the least effective at the same time. Effectiveness takes your proficiency and combines it with a work ethic and an attitude. To do what is right because it's right, to do what's right in a timely manner, to train your subordinates to do the same, to take the skill sets you've been given and utilize them with a lean forward mentality. In everything that an individual does, whether it be processing pay or qualifying with a weapon or managing an office or setting up energy policies or whatever, the reality is proficiency is required, but you still have to be effective at what you do. All right, but there's one more. And this one doesn't deal with skill, and that's cohesiveness. You see, the quickest way to undo proficiency and effectiveness is for a member of a team to act like solo artists. Even the finest legacy organizations can come unraveled if all the members can't trust each other, or always looking out for themselves, or they don't hold up their end of the assignment. A leader should be able to remind those that they lead regularly of the legacy they're a part of, remind others outside the organization who they are. Subordinate leaders should likewise take care of their folks at all times and put them first on the agenda. If a leader builds that brand and builds that esprit de corps, exhorts folks to be the best because they're part of the best, then great things are going to happen. Every single member of an organization should be proud then to be part of it. Okay, so I said all that. Proficient, effective, cohesive. Those are the three magic words for an organization to be like humming on all cylinders. So ask yourself next time the Trump administration declares a person to take on a position or takes a stance or has its people making the rounds on the talk circuit or creates a result that we can all see and even feel or removes a general or replaces him with another one. Does it seem like it's coming from a team that's proficient, effective, and cohesive? Because that's what Trump is building. That's what he's putting in place. That's why he wants who he wants in certain positions. And the media and the liberal left, they don't get a say in that. The Trump administration is not interested in appearances or glass ceilings. It's not about it's about anything more or less than proficient, effective, and cohesive because it's for the American people. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, there it is. Take those three words and make them a part of any organization you're a part of. If you lead an organization especially, you strive for those three things, proficient, effective, cohesive, you will have an organization that's like just kicking it, man. And that's what the Trump administration is doing. They could care less whether the liberal left thinks there's a glass ceiling that needs to be broken. What they want is the right people in the right place to do the right things and get her done. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We just recorded an amazing podcast with former Navy SEAL Jared Hudson, who now hunts down human traffickers. He's also got a personal story that involves a lot of overcoming and a ton of faith. So listen, I can't encourage you enough. Go ahead and sit down. Make yourself ready for the Just Right podcast. In this case, with Jared Hudson. Yeah, let's do a show. 1, 2, 3, hey! Jared Hudson, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
I'm glad to have you and appreciate you making time. So I'm going to do sort of an intro so folks know exactly who I've got sitting across the table from me right now. But so you're born and raised here in Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, born in Lynchburg, Virginia, and when I was about 4 or 5, we moved here. So, but yeah, pretty much born and raised.
So you're a
here.
Carpetbagger. You came down from up north.
Came down from up north. Came down from just below the Mason-Dixon line now. So still technically the South.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Bottom line though, grew up to become a Navy SEAL. That was your career. Team 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
Sniper qualified.
Yep, sniper.
You're also APO certified, Alabama,
Alabama
Police Officer Standards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certified law enforcement officer.
Yep.
Spent time in law enforcement, even ran for sheriff of the largest county in the state of Alabama, Jefferson
Hey,
County.
I was the sheriff runner-up is what I like to say because it
You
makes
were-
me feel better.
You were actually the Republican choice. How about that?
There you go. How about that?
And I'll be honest with you too. We'll talk about that more later. But as a longtime member of the Republican Party and a former elected official myself, I watched your race, and you were in a blue county running a red race, and you took him to the wire. And I think that says a lot.
Yeah, about 1%. And I lost by about 1.5%, I think, is what it came down to.
It was way close, and I think he was scared.
Yeah.
And he should have been. All right, there's that. You ran for sheriff. You love the Lord. You make no bones about it.
Only thing that matters.
Perfect. Which also leads me to you got a beautiful wife and 3 daughters.
I do, yep.
And I think those 2 are the crowning pieces of your resume.
They are, so I've got the wife, the 3 girls, and, obviously my faith first and foremost, even above them. Jesus says if you don't hate your family, then you don't have a love for me. It doesn't mean that I actually hate my family because I'm called to draw them to Christ, but my love for him even supersedes my love for them, and my love for them is unbelievably great. I'd burn the world down for those girls, and so that's how I feel. So imagine what I do for Jesus, if that makes sense.
And you're trained to burn the world down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, don't mess with my daughters because I'm gonna die trying.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
You now run, having spent time in the teams, you're out civilian world. You now run 2 companies, the Shooting Institute and Covenant Rescue Group.
Yep.
And we'll get into both of those in a minute. But I think suffice to say, your previous resume has translated well into what you're doing in the civilian world.
It has, yeah. The time in the SEAL teams is what prepared me, but also gave me, it's like the little bit of bait on the hook. And you still have to set the hook, but that's what gets people interested in who I am. Because SEAL, I'm just a regular dude like anybody else, but SEAL is a thing that people look at and they're like, wow, like you hear doctor, you hear lawyer, you hear politician, congressman, senator. Those things carry some weight because it takes something to get there, and I think that's what SEAL has done for me.
I think that's fair to say, and I think there's never going to be a time in your life, I'm of the mind, that God doesn't plant something in your life with purpose beyond what you might have imagined it.
100%, man. 100%.
You also, apparently, like every other SEAL, you wrote a book.
Yeah, that's right. Now, all my other SEAL buddies say, "I didn't write a book, bro. You wrote a pamphlet. It's only like 50 pages long." But yeah,
it works. It publishes.
Yeah, that's right.
And you also, by the way, right here with Rightside, you're one of our podcasters.
Yeah,
you got the Liberty Minute podcast, comes out every other week for the most part. Yeah.
I told a guy told me, he said, "Oh man, you're that guy on the Liberty Minute with Phil Williams." I said, "Yeah, man. My name's Jared. Nice to meet you." Go, "I know exactly who you are. I got one question though. Why do you call it the Liberty Minute? Because it's like 13 to 17 minutes every time." And I said, "Look, it's just a name, bro.
It's a euphemism,
yeah,
man.
It's just a name." So I thought it was pretty good, though.
All right, cool resume. Let me ask you this. You got a beautiful family, amazing military record. You live large. How if I'm going to start off, I'm going to get philosophical right off the bat. So having said all that, those things, like on paper, I see it all. But how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing that you should be remembered as is who are you in the person of Jesus Christ, because that's the only thing that lasts, right? Now, if I die right now, I'm going to be attached. I'm going to have a lasting impact, even in my death, on my wife and my girls. Possibly some of the people in my sphere of influence, possibly some of the guys in the SEAL teams I work with or in business or whatever. I might have a lasting impact. But oftentimes that lasting impact is not so much... It's not so much who you are here physically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I really believe it's who you are in the person of Jesus Christ, because they look at it and say, "Man, that guy really."
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, hey, listen, I got to tell you about Stan McDonald. Yes, I do. Attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama, and not only has he been a long-time practicing attorney and a good one, he's also been in the trenches, in the fray, in the mix on all the conservative policies and politics that right-side ruffians care about. The guy's like an OG ruffian from way back. That being said, as an attorney, I can just tell you, Stan McDonald has represented his clients in like literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say, and I always do, that if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So that being said, Attorney Stan McDonald, I'm going to tell you how to reach him. You might want an attorney in North Alabama. Well, he could be your guy. Stan McDonald, the law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his number, 256-533-0202. That's 256-533-0202. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Oh, yeah. And no representation made. The quality of legal services is bad at all. Not bad at all. I mean, it's actually really good. You know why? Because it's Stan McDonald. There you go. How's that for a disclaimer? Digging it. All right. Hey, the text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. I must say, in case you hadn't gotten your message, we sent the text line out, mass media. We sent out a special Rightside Report email address, letter. Coming up after the break, I have an important announcement to make, a very important announcement, and I would appreciate y'all hanging around for that. In the meantime, Tom with all the kids says, does Stan do family law? I might need a hand. Stan, first of all, yes, I'm sure he can help you out. Tom, I hope that's like good things. Just saying.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do. We wish the best. I want to also point out something too. You know, we take it serious when some of our ruffians let us know that they've got a need. And I will say this, David from Huntsville, his sweet wife, Yvette, is having her gallbladder removed right now as I speak. So in the name of Jesus, Lord, bless her, bless the doctors to be skillful. And we pray God for a successful result in Jesus' name. David, if you're listening at all, you let us know as soon as you hear something. All right. John from Huntsville says, Phil, fantastic monologue. Also, welcome back. And did you hear they found mosquitoes in the country of Iceland for the very first time? Must be global warming, I guess, huh? By the way, JP, you and Scott Buttram are a great fill-in team.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun yesterday.
Yeah, Scotty B is always fun.
Scott's somebody that you can just talk to for hours. And there's many times where you're like, oh, we got to go to break.
I know. He is that way. And he's also a hoot, man.
Yeah, he is.
So anyway, I appreciate y'all holding the fort. I had to be down in Montgomery taking care of some business. Had no idea when I'd get back. It's a good thing that y'all did fill in because I didn't get back till almost 7:00 last night. What was supposed to be a half-day event was a long one.
Well, that's as things normally go in Montgomery.
No, listen, you know what? I'm going to say this. The folks that I dealt with are the kind that restore your faith in government.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say what it was because it would involve just like talking about a meeting and things that people, all I will say is this, my gosh, I actually texted the boss for that office and said, you have amazing people that work with you. And he said, yep, they're all top drawer.
Sure.
All right. Coming back, special announcement. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
Was who he believed in. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
it
it's and I believe it's in James. He talks about, I'll show you my faith through my works. That's not a works-based salvation.
Right.
He's not saying that I'm working my way to heaven. I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, and that's going to get me to heaven. No, he's just saying, I have faith and I believe in Jesus, and because of that, you're going to see my fruits. My fruits are going to show that I believe in Jesus. Now, there's another aspect of that without getting too far off on this topic. You hear a lot of people say, oh, I let people see who Jesus is through how I live my life, right? That's what, I don't necessarily tell everybody about Jesus, but they get to see who Jesus is through how I live my life. Well, that's not good either, because Paul says, how will they hear if they don't have a preacher to preach? So there's two aspects to that. There's one, what I say, right? Scripture says a freshwater spring doesn't produce salt water. What I say is unbelievably important. But then once I say it, it's my actions that back it up. It's words, then action. And we see that with God. John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, right? Wasn't in the beginning was the action, was the creation. No, in the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. And then all was made through him and by him, and without him, nothing was made. We see that in John chapter 1. First was the Word, what he spoke, what we speak. Then second is the actions that back up what we speak. And ultimately see in John chapter 4 or John chapter 1, verse 14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among men, right? And we see that in Isaiah. He says, I was amazed. God was amazed that there was none who could stand before him. He's talking about when he was drawing the plan to create the world. None could intercede for man, so he said, I'll take up my own strong arm of salvation. So God says, I'm going to make a world where sin is possible. I'm not going to make them sin, but I'm going to give them the option. And guess what? I know they're going to choose sin. And there's none that are going to be able to stand before him, but I'm going to make a way out of sin, and it's going to be through me. That's what God says, and that's who we should be.
That's
so
1
the lasting
10:13.
That's right. So that's a lasting impact. The lasting impact is when I die, when I'm gone, when anybody looks, was Jared Hudson, was his actions, how he raised his kids, the husband he was to his wife, how he was to his friends, the guys he went to war with, the guys that he worked with here, stateside law enforcement. Did his actions match the words that he said? And those are the two important things. So when I'm remembered, I want to be remembered as a guy whose actions matched my words, because ultimately that should, as a Christian, that should give not honor and glory to me, that gives honor and glory to God. That guy really was who he believed in.
I think that's awesome. And let me ask you this, because I'm going to chase a rabbit for a minute. I just heard probably 5 times in the last couple of minutes you quoting scripture. So, like me
loosely quoting scripture.
Okay, it wasn't too awful of a paraphrase, but most of it was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And also when you said that, it would click verses in my mind. I think I responded back a minute ago, 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in memorizing scripture. My personal, I call it my life verse, is Joshua 1:8 and 9. And it says, this book of the law shall not depart from you. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may do what is written in it, and by this achieve prosperity and success. So let me ask you this. Is the memorization of scripture something that's happened just because it was ingrained over time, or do you have a deliberate attempt on a regular basis to put it to memory?
Man, I just read it, if I'm being honest.
And it sticks?
Yeah, just read it.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all are talking about this show, this one right here. I am talking about this show goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and logging into the live stream. Checking in on us, looking in on audio and video. Places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all you podcasters who catch it after the fact. Here's the bottom line. We love you. We do. We care about the fact that you're out there. The only reason why we're behind this microphone is because of you. And we can see all these different places where y'all catch the show. We see the numbers, and we get the responses and the emails, and it's the reason why we do it. So thank you very much. That being said, what a great segue for what I'm about to say. So I'm going to do all I can to work my way through an announcement. There's a verse that I love, several of them, but there's a verse that comes to mind. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And the indication there to me is that God has thought about us well in advance. I told somebody once, it's as if there's a giant filing cabinet and you can go to the drawers and pull it out, and God can just look through there and find the one with your name on it, pull it out, and there's the plan. He's already got it. There are times we have to step into things. There's times we have to be obedient. And so I am here to announce to you today that one of the honors of my lifetime has just occurred. And that this morning, it was announced that President Trump is nominating me to be the next U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. And you can hit some applause, I guess, if you want to, right there. That's a massive honor for me. I sort of feel a little bit like Dan Bongino on the national level. Smaller audience maybe, but still huge audience really when you get down to what we've been able to see and grow and accomplish here with Rightside over the last few years. This is a syndicated show that came out of nowhere. This is an audience that has become really, in many ways, what Charlene and I refer to as our Rightside family. There are a number of y'all that have become personal friends because we clicked through voice, but then we knew each other after the fact and began to know each other in real life, I would call it. And then there's so many of y'all whose names I identify with who are constantly texting, calling, or becoming a part of the fabric of the show that I can't imagine today. There's some of y'all that are so intertwined with the fabric of this show that if you don't text in, I wonder what happened to you. That being said, I'm also a firm believer that God calls and that there are times you have to step into it. So I am here to tell you that, like I said, the honor of my lifetime is that the Lord God has apparently opened a door. And Charlene and I, we got the word on this. It's been going on now for months, but we've not been able to talk about it because it was a process. It was a process that was shrouded in confidentiality, and it was a process that we were not able to talk about. It also was a process that had no finality to it, so why talk? But I'll just let you know that in summation, I would say God has opened a door and President Trump has called. And Charlene and I have jointly prayed about this and decided we are to step into this. So the honor of my lifetime, like I said, again, is to be nominated by the President of the United States, who I have the utmost admiration for, who I have watched him work from a distance and had the opportunity to really to have a voice in the Southeast about the things that he's been accomplishing and needed to get here into office to be able to accomplish. And the funny thing is the monologue that I had a minute ago, I wrote that monologue this morning early in the early hours while I was drinking coffee. I wrote that before I knew that I was getting the nomination today. I've been told that I was coming out on the list, but there was no list yet. And then on a whim, I wrote the monologue. I sent it in so that JP and Alicia here at the office, at Rightside office, could get it printed out for me to use on the show today. And on a whim, I checked, and it turns out the nomination had just come out. So, I've had some very cool opportunities in my lifetime. And this one is going to be at the height. I mean, the things that are interesting here, if I could just unpack it for a minute, and just sort of, I'm just freelancing here with you. My life verse, the verse that I count to be is like my special verse is Joshua 1:8-9. And Joshua 1:8-9, I believe I can do it from memory. It says, "This book of the law," meaning the Bible, "this book of the law, it shall not depart from you. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may do the things that are written in it. For by this you achieve prosperity and success. And have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed, for the Lord your God will go with you wherever you go." The Lord God will go with you wherever you go. Do not fear or be dismayed. There've been nights in the last few months where I laid awake at night thinking, whew, there's a lot. What do I do? How's this going to work? Some of y'all right now, I mean, the text lines are blowing up. Thank you very much. I'm going to tell you, first of all, that one of the deepest concerns I had was for my people at both my law firm and at Rightside. And then for you, my people, who I consider to be the Rightside ruffians who have become a part of our life, to the point that there are days, y'all, when I can have a bad day as a lawyer, walk upstairs to the studio and have a great day with all my Rightside ruffians and go home in a better mood than I would have otherwise. That's what y'all have meant to us. But I will tell you, the show is going to go on. So let me get that out of the way right away. I should have said that up front. The show is going to go on, and JP is still going to be on it. And there are some wonderful people that I'll be able to talk to you about in more detail in the next few days who have already accepted the mantle and have seen this as their role to come in and take Rightside Radio to the next level, in my opinion. Perhaps do things that I never could have done. I've always had to be dual employed, radio and law, right? They're coming in knowing they can put even more time into it. So I'm excited for who they are. I'm excited for what they're going to do. I'm excited for JP, who's going to be a part of it. And I'm excited for all of y'all to continue that. I'm asking you to embrace them too. I'm asking you, in all honesty, to embrace them and to love on them the same way you've loved on Charlene and I. Now, how'd this come about? I don't know, God. I got a call in May. I didn't seek this out. I never once considered myself to be a U.S. attorney possibility. Never even thought about it. I love the practice of law. I love the rule of law. I love the Constitution. I love that we're a nation of laws. I love the courts. I like going to court. I like duking it out with other lawyers. I like doing the research. I like arguing the motions. I like trying the cases. But I never considered myself to be someone the president would nominate to be the U.S. attorney for one of the largest districts in the entire United States. I want you to keep in mind the Northern District of Alabama encompasses 31 counties. That's almost half the state. It also includes it has two courthouses, not just one. It has two courthouses, one in Birmingham, one in Huntsville. It also now has the second largest Department of Justice presence outside of Washington, D.C. at Redstone Arsenal. It's a massive high-profile opportunity. And it's got a great staff filled up with incredible lawyers who could get paid a lot more in the private sector, who chose to go and fight the fights they fight because it's what's good for Alabama and the nation. So I'm excited to be a part of that. But I never considered myself to be a U.S. attorney. And when I got the call, I'm going to be real honest with you. The first thing I asked him was, well, who am I that you would ask me to do this? And I did. I asked him that. And then I turned it down. And then I got a call back. And the discussion took it to another level. And Charlene and I decided, okay, this is way more real than we thought it was. And I asked him at one point, I said, I'm not an Ivy Leaguer. I didn't clerk for Justice Scalia on the Supreme Court. I don't have that kind of pedigree. I've got a working man's law degree and 23 years of experience. And they said, that's what we're looking for. And they want somebody who they said could speak to the issues as well and herd the cats, and somebody who could also, in their opinion, come in believing in what the Trump administration was trying to do and supporting the policies of the president. Well, I can do all that. I can do all that. I know I can. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I know I can do those things. And so we said yes to the process. Yes to the process. Still meant there was a lot of process. Y'all, I am pretty sure I had an easier time getting a top secret clearance in the military. I have filled out more paperwork, done more interviews, and I will tell you one funny moment in the interview process. I was talking with one of the interviewers who said, Mr. Williams, we just need to know, is there anyone you think would not want you to be a U.S. attorney? And I didn't even hesitate. I said, every Democrat in the state of Alabama. But that being said, I'm going to be the people's attorney. I'm going to be the people's attorney. I'm going to be fighting for the Constitution, and I'm going to be doing what I can to protect people from those that should not have sway over our society. And I look forward to it. I look forward to it as an honor. So I do have a little more time with you on the air. I do. We're going to have a great show today. I've got a great time coming up. And then I've got some great people I'll be introducing you to in more detail here in the near future. And yes, like I said, JP is still going to be here. It is bittersweet for me. I think we're going to have a day here. You know, what's interesting is my sweet, demure wife, who will do public speaking when called upon, but doesn't look at that as being like her forte or her real strong desire. She's already said she wants a day in the studio with me. So that being said, dadgummit,
Well, let me jump in here and just
Save
tell
me
you.
from myself for a moment.
Let me just speak to you on behalf of myself and the Ruffians about how excited we are and how proud we are. It's reassuring to know that somebody with the faith that you have, but also the strong principles that you have, is going to actually be working in the government on behalf of us. That's what that's what gives us faith in the government. When we have people like yourself in there that we trust and know. And you've built up an army over the last, what has it been, 4 or 5 years that you've been on the radio, and the message that you left on people, and that's not going to die. The impact you've had on the listeners, that's going to carry on with them for the rest of their lives, for a lot of them. So although you're leaving the microphone, it's a great place for you to be going to work in the government and serve, and like you've done most of your life working in for the American government and fighting for conservative values and fighting for the people. So I know that I speak on behalf of the Ruffians as well, as how excited we are and how happy we are, and that you're helping restore faith in the federal government. So let's just say that.
Thanks, man. I love you. I appreciate it.
Love you too, man.
Well, I will end it with this. As I was getting a couple things together, a few thoughts that I wanted to have today, I wanted to have a couple verses of scripture, and I quoted you a couple from memory, really. Jeremiah 29:11, I did a moment ago, Joshua 1:8-9. But then one passage that I did not recall just leaped in front of me. I didn't see this one until right before the show. And so this is from the Amplified Edition, which is a pretty cool translation of the Bible that gives you kind of like all the words, that synonyms, that kind of thing. But 1 Corinthians 16:9, the Apostle Paul is talking to the church at Corinth, and he is telling them he's gonna be along soon. But he says, "For a wide door of opportunity for effectual service has opened to me, a great and promising one." And then he said, "And there are many adversaries." That's the way I feel right now. There's a wide door of opportunity for effectual service that is open to me, a great and promising one. And yes, there are many adversaries. There are going to be those that do not want me to take this office. There are going to be those that do not want to see the Trump administration succeed, much less me. There are going to be those that don't believe in the rule of law, and there are going to be those that don't believe that, a guy who has practiced law but also been on the radio should have a say in what happens in the court system here in the state of Alabama. And you know what? I say bring it on, because the Lord goes before me, and he has opened the wide door of opportunity. And when he opens doors, ain't nobody can shut them. All right, we're taking a break. I'm going to get myself back together. I love you all. There's my announcement. Nominated today by the President of the United States to be the next U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. The greatest honor of my life, really, professionally. And I thank you all for being a part of my life. We'll be right back.
What'd you say?
Does it just stick? I mean, when you read it, does it stay?
Stick? Yeah.
Or do you intentionally try to memorize it?
No, I don't intentionally try to memorize it. It's just I think it's just the natural outcome of of reading the word. You can, and when I was a kid, we did Awanas. I think it was one of my dad. Yes, we did Awanas. Not far from here. Rainbow City First Baptist, right up the road here. And so we would memorize verses as a kid that would stick. And having a dad that was a pastor, my parents they never forced us to do anything, but we would read scripture, and we'd read it as a family. And I think all my brothers and sisters do the same thing. We spend time in our Bible. It's a part of our life because it was ingrained into us at a young age. Yeah. Proverbs says, train up a child in the way they'll go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And so I think there's an aspect of that to who I see it with my daughters, with my girls. We'll do memory verses, and we'll read stories, and we'll do Bible stories at night before they go to bed. So I do believe that's important. However, my parents' faith is not my faith. My parents' faith is not what's going to get me into heaven. My dad's faith wasn't my mom's faith. My mom's faith wasn't her kid's faith. So we have our own faith in the person of Jesus Christ. So I do believe that you can't always lean on your mom and dad if they were Christians or if they were not Christians. You're going to answer for what you do. And what does that mean? When I say what you do, how do I transact with the person of Jesus Christ? Faith is not a work. I can have faith in the person of Jesus Christ and accept what he's done for me on the cross, or I can do what Pilate does, wash my hands and believe the lie that I'm innocent of this man's blood. So there is an aspect of you that is involved. Does that make sense?
There is.
Now, me being involved for just who I am, and everybody's different. Some people might write it down. Some people might memorize it. I would go on deployments, and I would just write because I could memorize better writing. I'd start in Genesis you're on a 6-month deployment to Afghanistan. If we weren't opping, we're watching movies. I can quote movies and all that, and my wife drives her crazy. How do you know these movies? I'm like, we watch tons of movies on deployment. And I would write just word for word, just what I was reading in my Bible. My granddaddy told me, he said, hey, read a Proverbs a day and it will make you wise. And I gave him, before one deployment, I gave him a Bible I had when I was in high school. I think the only thing I ever read was Proverbs. I'd read Proverbs a day and I would annotate it. And I gave it to him, and literally it was all marked up. And I said, I read a Proverbs a day. And he told me, he said, well, that's good, son, but I didn't mean only read Proverbs. You ought to read the rest of the Bible as well. So there's that aspect too. We pick the things that we like, and I've learned that over time. And now I do the Bible throughout the year in about 10 months. It takes me to go through the whole Bible.
Yeah. So let me ask you.
It sticks.
It does stick, yeah. And obviously, I would say you definitely had some intentionality attached to it too. But let me ask you this: has there been a time? And I'm really chasing a rabbit right now. But has there been a time? Because God's word never comes back void.
Yeah.
Has there been a time when you were in the thick of something and a verse came back to you that you hadn't even thought of for a while, and it just like, wow, I needed to ponder on that for a minute?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's one that I'd never thought of for a while. I'll use a training example. A lot of times I hate Bud's training examples because a lot of guys that just tell Bud stories is because they have no war stories. That's what I've learned. They've never killed anybody or actually been in combat. So the training stories I'm not big on, but this is one where this would apply, I guess. There was a Master Chief, and I believe his name was Guild, Master Chief Guild. If I remember right, I'm probably getting it wrong. I could text somebody and see. But either way, he was doing a program. He was part of a program where he would mentor Bud students as they were going through. They were trying to get numbers up because training was pretty much the same across the board. Standard the same. The percentage was the same. They increased Bud's classes. We had 366 start with ours in class 264, and 32 actually graduated SQT and got a Trident, right? So, you're looking at less than 10% by the time you get selected to go to a SEAL team. And then once you get there, now you've got, sniper school. We lost 60%, 40% of us graduated and became snipers. And these are all SEALs, right? So we lost 60% in sniper school that had to go back to a team and didn't get sniper quad. You lose, like Green Team, selection for development group, what everybody refers to as SEAL Team 6, Special Mission Unit. Those are all SEALs. A lot of them good dudes, but you'll also lose 60% of those, and 40% of those guys will become Special Mission Unit SEALs. So there's always a selection process where there's an attrition rate. Make sense? And they're trying.
Well, there should be.
As it should be.
If it was easy, everybody do it, right?
Exactly right. But what they're doing is they're trying to increase those numbers because we need more SEALs, we need more snipers, we need more guys screening for Special Mission Unit. Right. Because of the way the war was going at the time. This is 2006, and he was going through Buds with us, and he would meet with students, and he would say, "Hey guys, look, this is what people do." He would go to the NFL, go all over the place, and figure out what.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, I have regained my composure. I was doing fine until I mentioned Sweet Charlene, and then all of a sudden I had to catch my breath for a minute. But thank you for rescuing me a moment ago too. By the way, got so many. The text lines just went completely bananas. So that's a blessing. There's no way I could possibly answer all of these. I will just tell you how much it means to me, all y'all chiming in. I will say, too, it just caught my attention that Brandy from Owens Crossroads just actually texted a prayer. And I thank you for that, Brandy. That blesses me like you have no idea. So anyway, thank you for that. All right. It's not like we don't have news today, but we got our own news today, apparently.
Yeah.
Phones have been blowing up. Things have been happening. But it's very cool. By the way, if you want those 3 verses that I was talking about, where Jeremiah 29:11. I mean, I say all this to say, someone out there, I hope someone out there is hearing that God does the unexpected, that God does open doors. Perhaps you're looking at your own situation and saying, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I? And I got to tell you, as a thing for me, one of the things in my life has been that when I'm praying over a situation, a lot of times the prayers start off with, Lord, should I? Lord, what are you doing here? And then they shift from Lord, should I or would you, to Lord, why would I not? And this became that thing that shifted into the Lord, why would I not? At some point, it becomes a thing where you're praying for God to open a door. At some point, though, it almost shifts to the point, not almost, it shifts to the point that God needs to shut a door for you not to step through it, because it looks like things are lined up. I do believe that God works in our circumstances. There are different ways that I believe that God can still speak in a clear, audible voice. I do. I also believe that the Lord God operates through other people to give you insight, wisdom, and assistance. I also believe that the Lord God speaks through his word. The Bible is a ready source every single day, profitable for teaching, reproof, rebuke, and retraining for righteousness, it says. But then I also believe that there are times when God uses circumstances to help steer. And these circumstances, I can't even begin to describe to you guys the things that had to line up in the background for this to even be possible. So all that to say, perhaps I should write a book on this very thing. JP's been able to see some of it in the background. It's been a hoot, dude.
It has. And I just want to remind the folks that you will have a proper, this is not your last show. You'll have a proper, send off. And so we'll have some time to give you your flowers before you head off.
We may have to have maple bacon donuts.
Hey,
they are still listed as the official food of Rightside Radio.
Rightfully so.
Right. Yeah. Maple bacon donuts. But the three verses, I was hard to say a minute ago. I'm sorry. Jeremiah 29:11, Joshua 1:8-9, 1 Corinthians 16:9. Those are the three verses that I just felt like I had to bring today with me to share with you as a basis for where I am. That being said, cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows now. The crazy thing was how many people were starting to, the news was trickling out, not from me. I wasn't telling people. Next thing I know, I get a text and I go, who you been talking to? Well, I can't say, but they said they heard.
There's no secrets in Alabama.
There's no secrets in Alabama. There's no secrets in politics. I can just tell you that. We got a break coming up here in a minute. Chairman John Wall from the Alabama Republican Party is going to be calling in, spending some time with us. And we got to talk to him about this library board situation, y'all. It's a hot mess. We'll talk about what's going on. Chairman John Wall, Alabama Republican Party, coming up next. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
All kinds of bring it back and try to present it. He said, every warrior across, the all of history, all of the planet, all of history, had a mantra. They had something they held to, something they leaned on, whether it was their belief system in a God, whether it was their family, whether it was from whatever it is as a mantra. And I'm some dumb redneck kid from Alabama, 19 years old. I didn't know what a mantra was. And he said, what's that one thing that you can hold to that will help you make it through this process? Because if you can hold to something else besides the pain that you're going through, the distress of, hypothermia, cold water, getting beat and buzz, all that stuff. If you can hold to something else, you can make it through. But if you concentrate on what you're going through, you'll never make it. Right? That was kind of his, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with all that, but that's what he was putting out. And so I prayed to God. I knew the one thing I held to was God as a Christian. Grew up as a Christian, right? Got saved when I was 6 years old, asked Jesus into my heart. Like, God, what could my mantra be? I think it has to be in you. I'm here for my family, for me. I want to do this, but it's in you. What is it? It was 2 Corinthians 12:9, I believe, is the verse that says, it's when Paul was asking God, he's saying, hey, take away these thorns in my flesh, right? Whatever the issue was. Some theologians believe it was a sight. Some people believe it was other things. But he said, take away these thorns in my flesh. He asked 3 times, and God 3 times said no. And then God says to Paul, he says, my strength, this is 2 Corinthians 12:9, my strength is sufficient for you, or my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And I thought, that's it. And so that is a scripture that the Lord gave me in that time that I really didn't even, I never I'm sure I'd read it before, but I was a young kid. It's not like it was just brought up to my mind. I remember specifically reading that as I'm praying, reading that in a Bible, in my study Bible, and being in 2 Corinthians, and that scripture stuck out at me. And so that's what all right, God, your grace is sufficient for me. Your strength will be made perfect in my weakness. And that's in that book. Buds wasn't that hard as far as a physical standard. Like you could pass, I could probably even now at 40 years old pass most of the standards. I can still do the O course. I could probably do first and maybe second phase 4-mile time run times. I could probably still do the swim. It's not actually that hard. It's the continuation of it through injury, through constant work that makes it so hard. They make you bad at things that you are often good at. That's why so many athletes struggle with it. So anyway, that's probably the best example I can give of a scripture that
That's
I
a
held
good one.
to.
And I had when I was my first tour downrange when I was mobbing out of Bragg. We had some SEER instructors that spent time with us, and I'll never forget. And I've actually talked about this before. I don't even remember what all they told me. I don't remember how to do my search and rescue dot, but I probably could now. But the reality is, one thing that stuck out with me was he said at one point he like just stopped in the middle of it, like it was an unplanned moment, and he goes, "Hey, let me just say, if you don't already have something bigger than yourself that you believe in, you better get it right now before you go downrange, because if they ever take you, you better have something to hang on to that's more than you."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And for me, that was my faith.
Yeah.
And for me, that was mine in downrange was Psalm 91, the soldier psalm they call it.
That was my wife's on my first deployment.
And my wife's the one who gave it to me.
No,
I don't
okay.
think I even knew Psalm 91 until she gave it to me.
No, I didn't. My wife can quote it word for word still.
Absolutely.
We were married. How old was she? I think I was 21. I might have been 22, and she was 19. We got married, and 2 months later, I rolled to Afghanistan, and it was a great deployment. Man, it was the Wild West. We're killing everybody we came in contact with. Those bad guys. It was what you trained for. It's what you desired. It's what you were going to do. It was great. Now hindsight being 2020, it's like, should we have even really been there? Now knowing what we've done, or at least seeing how they pulled out of Afghanistan. And but at the time, man, it's what you wanted to do as a young SEAL. And my wife, though, she knew that. She knew that what we're going into, what we were doing, and she prayed Psalm 91 every day. That was her verse.
Charlene did the same. My wife did the exact same thing. You look at my notes. That's a perfect segue. Let me do this.
No, I can't even read your notes.
Tell me. I can read I'm the only one who can read my notes.
That's important. That's the only thing that matters.
So tell me about your wife. So y'all met, and she's a team wife, obviously.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Which is not easy.
No. Yeah, she. We met. We were just talking about this the other day. I think she's 3.5 years younger than I am. I'm 39 right now, and she's about to turn 36. So we met. She was 18, and I was whatever that would have been, 21 into 22. I had just I'd been a SEAL for like 6 months, maybe 8 months, right? I did my first.
So you were still a SEAL pup.
I was a SEAL pup, man. I was a new guy. I did my first, deployment, or what they would count as a deployment. I checked in at the end of an Iraq deployment, stayed in Germany doing working with the Group 1 leadership as they're doing a pass-through. Decompression stop is what they called it for the whole team. So I stayed there as the whole team rotated through from Iraq. And I can't remember where we went into in Iraq, but I went with a master chief. Me and just a master chief went into Iraq. We had to check in and do something, and I can't remember what we did, and then we flew over to Germany. It was only there for a week. And that's one point I like to make in these podcasts. Guys or anytime I talk, guys will be like, oh, yeah, Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever we are. Just because I've got an Iraqi ribbon, Operation Iraqi Freedom or whatever. You got guys that have that stuff all the time. They got their combat action badge or their combat action ribbon or whatever. Just because you were in a country where combat was happening doesn't mean that you were in combat, right? And so there is a lot of that goes on. Just because I was in Iraq doesn't mean that I was doing what the boys were doing in Salter City, that deployment. I checked in at the tail end of that, and then I went to Germany. So just because you're a part of it doesn't mean you were doing it. And there is a misconception with that a lot of times. One, with how people receive it, but also, two, with maybe even how guys present it sometimes. So there's probably I don't know. I like to make sure that that's understood. Went to Germany, went to get back from that, and was selected to go to sniper school as a new guy, which is very rare. And so I went to sniper school, and that was when I met my wife. And
You met her at sniper school?
yeah, so before I went to sniper school, I had to bring all the weapons that we were bringing back from. They landed at one of it might have been Fort Bragg, but they landed at one of the Army bases. I think it was Fort Bragg. They landed there. Me and another guy, a buddy of mine, I won't say his name. He's at Red Squadron still, or he was at Red Squadron. He might be. He was an instructor at Green.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, listen, this is supposed to be part of the home fries segment. All right. This is all, but you know, the whole nomination thing did kind of derail the resources that I've got. I'm not rattling my paper yet, but I will have to say, I don't think I can go further until we hear the sizzle of the home fries. So cook them up, smell them in the pan. What I'm talking about there, for those of y'all that may not remember, home fries means we're doing news stories about things that happen here in the listening area itself, not just what happens in DC or other places. But that being said, somebody who has been integral to the home fry cooking here in the state of Alabama for quite a while is a friend of mine and a friend of this show. That's Alabama Republican Party Chairman John Wall, who happens to also chair the Alabama Public Library Systems Board, which is like the center of a controversy in all the world. So without further ado, let me bring in one of the most controversial people in state politics, John Wall. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be on the show. And before we move on, I think I have to take this opportunity to be the first person on air to say congratulations to the soon-to-be finest U.S. attorney in the entire country. How's that?
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm appreciative of that, and thank you very much, my friend. I will say you've probably been in the know on this for a bit because you've also been a prayer warrior. So thank you very much for that.
No, well, I may have known, I may have been praying for it, but to see it actually all come to fruition and right on the White House website this morning, I'm so proud. I'm so excited for you and you know, going back past politics, past even the legal system, to how God, the King of the universe, is going to use you in this role. I'm so excited for you, for your family, and for the state of Alabama and our country as you step up and take on this charge.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that very much. Well, listen, man, let's shift gears and talk about something besides me for a minute. You apparently seek out controversy, and yet I will say this once again, I never would have imagined libraries being controversial. What in the world?
No. Isn't it great? I was explaining to the crowd yesterday. So, and to give the listeners a little bit of background, the APLS board, the Alabama Public Library Service Board, had a hearing yesterday on a proposed code change where we are coming back and we're going to say, we're going to listen to the parents in Alabama, which is what good government should be about.
Right.
Listening to the people, listening to the parents, listening to the constituents, putting people first. And hearing their concerns about some of the stuff that's in the youth section, in the children's sections of Alabama libraries, where we have innocent children stumbling across books that don't just contain sexually explicit content, but they're encouraging young people to explore the world of transgenderism and encouraging sometimes 6, 7, 8-year-olds to challenge what their gender may be. And I'm here to tell you, this is common sense, this is scientific. And if you want to go all the way to the the authority himself, this is defined by God. There are only two genders, male and female, period.
That's right.
And we're not going to be bold. I mean, we're not going to be shy about that. We're going to be bold about it. We're going to speak truth. We're going to be honest about it. And we're going to say, look, we're going to say these books that are encouraging young people to make irreversible mutilations of their bodies. We're not going to allow books that encourage us and push us on our children, that sexualize our children. We're going to move them out of the youth sections and get them away from areas where young people's children and young people will not accidentally stumble across this material. And so, like you said, unfortunately, you would not think that should be a controversial decision. That should be something everybody can agree with. But it is not. We had a meeting yesterday. We had a public comment period. And I'm proud to report over 8,000 Alabamians
submitted
comments. Yes, incredible number. And of those, over 6,000 were in favor. Right at 80% of the public comment that came in was supportive of this code change.
Well, that you know what, and it's amazing that you even have to ask the questions too, isn't it? It's amazing that you have to go solicit public opinion as to whether or not they want to see these changes put in place because they feel like they're such common sense. But that's the era in which we live. I got to tell you, one of the things that keeps getting said about y'all is that you're book banners and that you're trying to ban books altogether. But even though these books are something that you and I would disagree with entirely, all you're really saying is don't put them in the kids section for the most part, right?
Literally. And, and this is something that I explain over and over again. What we're talking about is almost the opposite of book banning. In fact, I'm a very strong constitutionalist. I believe in the vision of our founding fathers. I believe in the First Amendment. And I would literally be willing to give my life fighting for the freedoms that America, the birthright of the American experience, these fundamental liberties, including the First Amendment, and saying that no book should be, the power of government should never be used to ban a book or tell you what you can or cannot read, period. Now, I'm in complete agreement. The question here is a completely different question. It's should we use taxpayer money to put sexually explicit and transgender supportive books in front of children? And this goes back to the same thing culture has done since the beginning. Over thousands of years across every culture in the world, we have always protected children from sexual topics and from things that are hard. It's why we don't allow children to drink or to smoke, to drive, to buy guns until they're old enough to understand the responsibility. And all we're saying is, let's hold the libraries to that same accountability. If Hollywood can rate movies and put already moving to protect tech kids, Alabama libraries can do the same thing.
And I got to tell you too, John, as an attorney, statutory rape, which is considered rape, is sexual interaction with a minor child because that child is considered to be incapable of resisting or saying no or understanding the situation. Then it is automatically determined to be statutory rape by statute because the adult should know better. And that's where we are right now. Right. What you're saying here is kids can't see the difference sometimes, and they also are super impressionable. And it is up to us as adults not to just force things on their life that they shouldn't have to deal with.
100%. And the biggest issue here is parental rights as well. Because what we're saying is, let's move this stuff out of the children's sections where it can be accidentally stumbled across, move it to the adult section, and then let the parents make the decision of whether their child has access to it or not. Because at the end of the day, it's not an unelected bureaucrat in your local library. It's not librarians. It's not even the APLS board or me as chairman. It should be parents making these decisions for their families. And that's what we want to stand for. We want to stand for the people of Alabama and put parents back in the driver's seat as they decide what their children are exposed to.
Okay, so this change is being now you've already received all the public comments. So what's the next step here? What's happening next?
Yeah, so great question. So we're going to take the public comment, both the written comments as well as the hearing from yesterday, and the board is going to consider that and come back at our next board meeting, which is scheduled for the middle of November, and take a final vote.
Okay.
I cannot imagine the board, after the overwhelming support from the people of Alabama, not taking the step to safeguard our children.
Well, what's also irritating to me is that there are some libraries that are resisting, and there are some that are playing coy and say, we just don't have enough clarity. We need more clarity. And I'm thinking, my God, how do you raise your children at your house? Maybe that should, but yeah, go ahead.
My favorite story with that is we had libraries saying that they could not tell what sexually explicit was. Which my immediate response was, okay, that's either incredibly dumb or you need to buy a dictionary. No, so we passed the definition, and then they complained about the definition we passed, and I was like, well, you asked for us to tell you what was considered sexually explicit, and that's what we did. And definitions are important, and that's now been clearly laid out. So there doesn't need to be any confusion with the local libraries. They have an exact explanation of what sexually explicit is. They know what transgender books are, and we should be able to hopefully move forward and put the people of Alabama first, and stop the insincere debate and get to real action as we seek to make sure that Alabama libraries are cleaned up.
Listen, man, I gotta say, between that and your service to the state on the Republican Party chairmanship, I have no idea when you do your real job.
Wait, hey, I haven't been home for a while, actually. Believe it or not, I think I've been home 2 days in the last 3 weeks. So,
Holy cow!
Yeah, you sometimes you know I think back to the founding fathers and this country, and I love America so much. I love the vision of our founding fathers. I love that we're the land that's free and the home of the brave. And I think sometimes, what am I doing? Am I a nut for taking all this on? But then at the same time, if we don't fight for our country, I never want my children and my grandchildren to say that I didn't stand up and fight.
There you go.
And so it's my priority.
Well, listen, hey, brother, we got about 2 or 3 minutes left before we go. Let me ask you something. Put on your party chair hat for a minute. We are now in day 22, I think, of the government shutdown. I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning who is a government service employee at Redstone Arsenal, and he's in his third week now without pay, no end in sight. I hear rumors that that the Senate may consider a nuclear option to do away with cloture and to or at least in this instance, like carve out an exception to the filibuster. But I look at this and think, what are we going to do as a party? It's nice to be the ones in charge, but you have to also deal with the ones who aren't in charge just being obstructionists, and that's where we are. What do you see going forward on this shutdown right now?
Well, and look, let's start with making it very clear that this is exactly what's wrong with the Democrat Party today. This is literally the budget they passed last year. This is the Biden budget, and they can't even agree to that.
That's right.
Insanity. Also, and I think Republicans need to get on this messaging. Look, every day this goes on, the American people realize more that they don't miss the federal government as much as they might think. And the real victims here are the federal employees who aren't getting paid.
That's right.
And this is what the Democrats are doing because, every day this goes on. And my heart breaks is I have friends and I have family who work on Redstone Arsenal. So I feel the pain. But I think at the same time, this is an opportunity to explain to people, look, a smaller federal government may not be as hard as people think it is to accomplish. And who knows, if the Democrats won't vote for this, maybe we will have a permanently shut down government.
That's exactly right. There's a deep irony in the fact that last weekend was the No Kings rally, so-called No Kings rallies. And for the most part, they were, in municipalities around the nation. But the ones in D.C., part of who had to guard the No Kings rally and protect, from any trouble were the Capitol Police, who are federal employees who were there safeguarding the rights of the people who aren't wanting them to get paid right now.
Isn't that amazing? Not ironic. It really is.
Yeah, it really is.
And look, and freedom, smaller government, freedom is the answer. And for the Democrat Party to listen to the voters who voted on November 5th of last year, to give Republicans a chance, to give Donald Trump a chance to do something with this country. And it's disrespectful to the voters. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what the Democrat Party is doing.
Absolutely. All right, man. Stay in the fight. We'll keep talking, and appreciate your time serving on the library board as well as the state party chairman. And maybe once in a while you'll be back at the farm doing what you do.
Oh, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to get to the farm every once in a while. But no, thank you. Always good to be on the show, and congratulations again. I'm so blessed to have you in this position, and I'm looking forward to seeing what God does with you.
Thank you, my brother. We'll talk soon. All right, that was Chairman John Wall, Alabama Republican Party chairman, also of the Alabama Public Library Systems Board, which is like the center of all controversy in the world. We're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Not too long ago, so he might still be over there, but me and him flew out to pick up those weapons for SEAL Team 3 and escort them back to the West Coast because they landed in at the East Coast at one of the Army bases. And when we flew out to pick those up, they let him fly back with them by themselves because I didn't go on leave when I graduated SQT. I checked in pretty much immediately I was at the team for like a week, painting bathrooms and doing stupid stuff, with a couple of guys. And then we went to to the tail end of the Iraq deployment into that Germany thing. So they said, hey, since you didn't get to go on leave, fly over here with Chris, and y'all pick up those weapons, account for them. I helped him inventory them. He can fly back with them by himself because we're going to have somebody meet him in San Diego, and you can drive home. My mom and dad came and picked me up in North Carolina. They drove to North Carolina, picked me up, and drove me home, and I stayed at home for 7 days. They didn't even charge me any leave for it. They just let me go.
So she was back here. She's an Alabama girl?
She's an Alabama girl.
Okay.
And I met her during that time. My brother and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, somehow connected us, and her family went to my dad's church where he pastored at. We met up, went on one date, and then we just started talking, and somehow the Lord made it happen. 6 or 7 months later, I graduate sniper school, have a big family shoot, and we had been dating. I'd already gotten a ring. I called her. Her dad came up with my dad and brothers because they let him shoot all the sniper guns. They do like a family day. None of the girls came up. It was just my dad, my brothers, and Lauren's dad. And we're fishing in my buddy's pond up there that I'm still friends with, Troy Dehart. And I said, hey, man, or to Greg, my father-in-law, I said, hey, man, I'm going to ask Lauren to marry me if it's okay with you. And he's like, oh, man, you better ask her. Just went back to fishing. That was it. So that's kind of, that was.
He was in his happy place. Why bother him with that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then about 8 months later, we got married before
awesome.
I deployed to Afghanistan. So, yeah, she was with me from the start, really, of my SEAL career, almost the start.
Team wife's not easy. I said that a minute ago. My wife, I've said that she's a rock. I mean, I've got multiple deployments, and she held down the fort. And at the same time, I never came home not knowing who my kids' teachers were, what their grades were, what the latest ins and outs of life were, because she made everything just seem so relevant and updated me constantly.
Man. Yeah, dude,
but she also kept all the bills paid and the yard mowed and the whole thing, man. I mean, but at the same time, you were active duty in the teams. That's a high up tempo life. How was it for her and for the marriage?
I mean, it was good. I mean, she misses the teams a lot of times. She liked because her parents were divorced, and so she bounced around between her grandparents, her mom, her dad, and she's got a good family and had a good life. Close with her brother. Her brother's a good dude. Works for Alabama Power, pretty high up in Alabama Power. But Trent's a good guy, and we have close relationship with him. There's never like bad relationship with anybody in the family, or at least on her side. She just wasn't settled. So team guy life for her and team wife life was actually pretty good because she was used to that. Going to be at mom's, going to be at dad's, going with my grandparents. She was used to kind of that bouncing around, and so she would do that, and
God built her for it.
Kind of. It's almost like he kind of knew what she was going to go into, and she would have never thought she'd be that. Now she hates it when I deploy. Hates it when I go somewhere. She pitches a fit if I ever say I'm going overseas to do anything. Right? She doesn't. But she was actually pretty good at it. She misses the community team guy life. She does miss that. She even talks about it now. We didn't have kids while I was in the teams. That was one thing. She did not want to have kids in the teams because she got to know so many women. We lost dudes all the time, So I say all the time. We lost dudes regularly, and she went to those funerals with me. We went to funerals and put your trident in a coffin, and she knew their wives. And some of these guys had kids, and now daddy's gone from it. She just didn't. For her, of course, we were married. She was 19 at the time. I think I was 22 into 23, around that age range, and we didn't. She just did not want to have kids in that life with me deploying. That was probably the biggest thing, is it being hard to start a family.
Did you have connectivity? I mean, it's crazy, modern deployments. My granddad went to World War II. He was a glider rider.
Didn't talk to anybody.
And he was gone for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I came home when it was done. But did you have connectivity? Could you call home, email, that kind of thing?
We did, whenever somebody would die in country, that, which happened pretty regularly, you go to River City, and not be able to talk for a week or 3 days until the next of kin was notified.
Right.
I mean, we would still talk some, you call out on sat phone, different things, but generally speaking, it was hit or miss, but we did have connectivity. We were on a fob one day, and I was talking to her on the phone on a green line, and, a little bit of a delay. We're just talking, and all of a sudden here, a mortar came in, or a, recoilless rifle rocket came in and hit, and it's like, hey, I got to go. We got to get to our fighting positions, and she's like, "What was that?" And he just hung up the phone and bounced. So she did deal.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades, y'all. That's what we're doing. I got several text messages. Listen, I recognize that the vast majority of the text messages have been incredibly wonderful, glowing congratulations, and so I thank you for that. So let me just read a few of them out. I can't possibly get to all. What would you say, JP? Over hundreds of texts, I think, are popping
hundreds, yeah.
So thank you all.
For about an hour.
Yes. I am blessed by it, so I ain't complaining. Roughly Ann from Huntsville says, "Wow, congratulations, Phil. Alabama's been elevated again by God's favor, and I'm sure going to miss you." Thank you, Roughly Ann. I appreciate you more than you know. Ken from Rimlap says, "Yes, that is good news. This country's moving in the right direction. Good news. Thank you for that, sir." Goose from Franklin, Tennessee says, "Wow, prayer covering for Phil and his family for such a time as this." Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Scott from Athens says, "God bless you. In your honor, can we call Wednesday Whey Protein Wednesday?" Why is it called Whey Protein Wednesday?
I don't know.
I don't know. Did he mean that for me, or is that somebody else? Okay. Jay from Killen, Alabama says, "Congratulations. It's a classic case of mixed emotions. I'm thrilled that we in North Alabama will have you fighting crime and getting weary of the presidential massing with my radio schedule."
Yeah, because he did the same with Bongino.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. This is a thing. I am very excited. And as we go to the bottom of the hour, I'll come back in a minute and jump on some dippers and do some things. But for those of y'all that missed it earlier, my announcement was that President Trump, it was announced today that President Trump has nominated me to be the next U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. The honor of my professional life. It's as an attorney, this is one of those pinnacle positions. It's one of those things that there's only 93 of these in the entire nation. They are appointed by the president, nominated or confirmed by the Senate, and that's a huge deal. But as I've practiced law for 23 years, and I love the Constitution, as I love the practice of law, as I love doing what I do on behalf of clients, I never imagined this happening. And I'll be honest with you, I say it with all sincerity, I did not seek this out, which is all the more reason why we believe that God's in it, because it came from, there's no other way to describe it except that he opened a door. And I believe that there's a time and a place when God opens a door that you have to say, I got to step in it. So yeah, God called, the president called, and Charlene and I believe it is our role to step into it. Sam from Priceville saying, "Congratulations," and prayers from Priceville. Thank you, buddy. Lou Ann from Huntsville says, "Congratulations, Phil. Make us proud." I will do that. That is the intent. Jerry from Decatur says, "Congratulations, Phil, for your high calling appointment from the president. I've known from the beginning of your radio show that God had his eye and his hand on you, and he has opened the door to where he needs you now. So press on to your high calling and consider this a reward for faithful service to God and country. All the way, sir. Airborne." Airborne to you, Jerry. Airborne all the way. All right, you guys, we're going to come back, and I am going to get some dipper material done. Woo! Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Like that she talks about now that she didn't like at the time.
My wife tells the exact same story. I'm sitting on the roof of our safe house in Afghanistan where my team was located on a sat phone talking to her, and all of a sudden something went cha-choom. Yeah. And she goes, "What was that?" I said, "Nothing, baby." And I'm looking at one of my guys going, "What was that?"
Yeah, gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We did have we had the same connectivity, and we had the same comms blackouts if we lost somebody. And I'll never forget, I had a special phone because I did a lot of interconnectivity on my second tour in Baghdad, and we had Sadr City and parts of Rasafa district. And
where were you in Sadr City?
04.
Okay, all right, yes.
But and it was a mess.
Oh,
we lost
man.
some good guys, but we had one particular day where it was a coordinated ambush. We had IED strikes followed by small arms and RPGs that took out 3 of our guys. And so the comms blackout went in. Well, my wife, the phone that I carried had the ability to call in. And I told her, I said, "Don't ever call in, hon, unless it's an emergency. If I call you, we'll talk, but don't call me. But if it's an emergency, just know you can." Well, she called that night because she's literally watching the news, looking at patches on the shoulder and realizing, oh my gosh, I think I know where that is. And I think that's Phil's unit. And she called me that night. Oh, it was a rough one.
Yeah.
But it's hard for the wife sometimes being back
Oh yeah.
home.
Well, I mean, you got to think you're the one. You're not in the know. You know, you're not in the know. But yeah, you're together. It says that's why Scripture tells us that the man leaves his parents so the two can become one flesh. I mean, so you join, you become one flesh, and we're a family. We are, I still have my mom and dad, still respect my mom and dad, but now I am the headship of this, and she is part of that, and we're one flesh. And when you go on these deployments, these wartime deployments, you're pulled apart, and she's living in the unknown all the time. Now, you know what's going on, right? And you're doing it. So that takes a strong person, not just a strong woman, just a strong person in general. When I say person, because you got kids that deal with the same thing too. They're part of that unit, that family unit. I don't say team for family. My wife likes saying team, and I'm like, no, family's not a team. A family's a family, which in my opinion is different than a team. I was a team guy for my entire career. That's what they call us. That's our nicknames, team guys. I know what a team is like. A family's not like a team. It's even deeper. It's more. It's a deeper rooted thing than a team. And a team is pretty deep. We can agree on that. Your family is one level deeper, and that's why we're born into the family of Christ. We're part of God's family in the person of Jesus Christ. It's more than a team. We're not teamed up with Christ. We're in His family. And so I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Let me ask you, let me segue off that, though. I'm going to chase a rabbit again. So you're a team guy.
Yeah.
And now you got a family, and God saw fit to make sure you had all girls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you come from team guy, law enforcement, doing all the alpha male stuff, and yet you go home and you are so outnumbered right now.
Yeah, man. Well, I got a buddy he's got daughters too. He said it just means I was man enough to blow the balls off of them. That's what he always says. So, sorry for the ladies that listen to this, but I always think it's funny. No, man, I wouldn't trade those girls for anything. I mean, it is different. Love my wife, have my wife, but those girls,
How old are they roughly?
9, 6, and 3. Awesome. So yeah, we got 9, 6, and 3, and
girls are hard too.
They're hard.
Wait, man, they're gonna be teenagers.
What I've learned, I think, in my brothers, my brothers have sons, and they also have daughters. So I got nieces and nephews. We have more girls than boys in our family, the grandkids side. So all the cousins, we all get together. It's all girls, and just 4 boys now but there's a baby. He's Bennett is a little over a year. I think he's 18 months. So I say that to say those boys, I've noticed that they're destructive, but they're actually easier as children, is what we notice. I say they're easier as children. They're harder as little children because they're destructive than girls, because girls are not as destructive. But what I've seen now, looking at the teenage side of it, boys just kind of stay the same. You kind of know what you're getting. Yeah, they might be destructive, but boys are just kind of the same all the way through it. Those girls, they shift. There is a shift, and the drama comes in, and I've already seen it with a 9-year-old. I can't imagine, the teenage years. I mean, her and my wife fighting over like how our hair is going to be done or clothes. The 3-year-old fighting over shoes. This is what girls do. What I've learned about girls, I actually asked Chat.
Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. And I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains that we call Auburn. Yep, War Eagle. Straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. I saw you smile when I said War Eagle, by the way. And all kinds of big old patches in North Georgia, Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world, going to the World Wide Web, logging in and live streaming the show on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, our website, and our website is rightside.media.org. And then there's all you podcasters, tons of y'all. What are we at right now, JP? Somewhere around 365,000 downloads of the podcast. That's just
362,000, 362.8 thousand,
362.8 thousand, just 362,000. That's all. Anyway, the end result is wherever you catch the show, it means the world to us. Thank you for it. We appreciate you. You're the only reason why we get behind the microphone. So thank you very much. You had some comments over there on the social media. What you got?
Oh, we just got a ton of congratulation messages
good. Okay,
from
great.
people. We got
That's wonderful.
Charles Kiplinger on the X saying,
Yeah.
Congratulations, that
Thanks,
is
man.
awesome. We also got George Curry on the X, and that's awesome. Now we have someone we can trust and have faith in.
Oh, wow.
And Birdman on the YouTube says,
My Birdman.
Congratulations.
There he
What an
is.
honor.
That's Birdman. That's host of our Birdman's Right Click
Right
podcast.
Click.
Yep.
And I'll just read one more.
And by the way, I'll go ahead and say Birdman, my son-in-law.
That's true too.
So
I'll just read one more. This says a lot, but Alan C on the YouTube says, "Second of the day to catch the show on YouTube for the first time. Let's go, counselor."
Alan C, appreciate you, man. And by the way, I know you said that there were some comments in there from Kelly Zarang.
Yes.
You had Aaron Bruce in there.
Aaron Bruce.
Who else? Tracy Stevens was in there.
Yep.
Tracy Stevens, who, by the way, married name I know, but anyway, Tracy Stevens I knew from high school.
Tom Boyer.
Tom Boyer. Anyway, all y'all, those are familiar names. Love all you guys. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Good deal. Keep blowing them up, man. We're going to talk about some stuff right now. I got to tell you, I got a dipper here that I wanted to do because, you know, when I'll never forget this. There are times when politics has actually just fired me up. I mean, it's like one thing to win your own race. Like, you know, when I won twice to be a state senator. And there's moments like where you get that kind of like, you know, just like you're after the NASCAR race and you want to drink the milk and do a backflip off the side of the vehicle, right? But there's other times too, occasionally, when I have watched or seen something and it just fired me up in the political realm to the point that I could feel it. Not like, oh, good policy or oh, good budget or no, I'm talking about like it got to my core. Well, Charlene and I went up to D.C. for the inaugural. And you may recall, if some of y'all were probably there, because of security issues and the incredible cold, I'm talking like, y'all, it was like Arctic cold. That because of all those factors, everything changed. And so us having tickets meant nothing because tickets went away because they had to move the actual swearing in ceremony and the inaugural address inside, which I agreed with. I mean, I thought it was kind of miserable to be the idea of them all sitting out there just so that Trump could make a speech outside in the blistering cold. But I think it was also for safety, and I get that too. He'd already been shot at, right? As he's giving his address, I wound up having this unique opportunity. Some of y'all know State Representative Ernie Yarbrough. He's been on the show many times. He's even guest hosted the show. But Ernie texted me and said, "Hey, where are you watching things?" And I said, "I don't know, man. Everything changed." And he said, "Come over here to Congressman Adderholt's office. There's a group of us gathering up in his office just to do a watch party." And I thought, well, that's cool. So Charlene and I were able to get through security, which was a hoot, and make it to Congressman Adderholt's office there in the congressional office buildings next to the Capitol. And what a beautiful office, by the way. We're actually looking out the window. There's the rotunda of the Capitol. We could see the dome right outside the window. In fact, what was really cool was as the oath of office took place, I watched as for the last time, Marine One, there, the helicopter fired up, rotored up, and flew Biden away. I've got a video of Biden being flown away from DC. Whoop, whoop. I was excited. That was a cool moment. But then there was Trump's address. And I got to be honest with you. There have been few times when I have felt like moved by something in the political realm, like moved, I could feel it in my core. But when Trump said at one point, we are restoring, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, America to a new era of common sense, it got all over me, y'all. Because I felt like like for the 4 years of the Biden administration, I felt like we have been somehow sipping tea at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. I mean, it's like nothing made sense. Like, what in God's name is happening? What are they doing at the White House? Autopin, what is that? And then you got people getting preemptive pardons. Who ever heard of a preemptive pardon? And then you got the White House press secretary telling you things you saw yesterday and you know they're not true, but she's saying it like it's real. And then you had all kinds of things happening, like, you know, transgenders going half naked on the lawn of the White House, and just ridiculousness. And so when Trump said he was restoring the era of common sense, it just resonated with me. So this dipper, now that I've done this whole soliloquy, this dipper is called Making Common Sense Common Again. And what I love is there are things that are happening right now. You look at it and go, well, we shouldn't have to actually ask, or we shouldn't have to actually do, but we're going to do it because it's common sense. One of the greatest common sense moments I've got right now is anybody else out there like John Fetterman? I mean, did you find yourself like kind of being drawn to the guy? I mean, let's not mistake him for a conservative, but hey.
Yeah, I think he's a breath of fresh air on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would also say, I'm not like I'm not going to be campaigning with John Fetterman next time around.
No.
But yeah, I agree. It's like, okay, they're not all lunatics on that side,
So I will say I was in DC not long ago, and as I walked past his office, he's got, of course, he's from Pennsylvania, so he's got the flag of the United States, the flag of Pennsylvania, and the rainbow flag outside of his door of his office. And I'm like, oh, geez. At the same time, John Fetterman has become the only common sense Democrat, it seems like, in that party.
He's the only one, it looks like, that's willing to break the party line vote on common sense issues.
Perfect point. Segue. Yeah. Thank you very much. So I've got a piece here from the National Pulse. John Fetterman says he will back a Senate GOP move to abolish the filibuster. Now, this is dicey because, I get it. The filibuster is there to allow for debate to continue to be stifled by those who are not in the majority. And that's basically what it boils down to. The filibuster means you can try to stand up against, it's like Mr. Smith goes to Washington. You can try to stand up there and filibuster the moment and not provide the opportunity for a vote on that bill you think is very risky or needs more work. However, I have seen the filibuster be used for nothing but what you might refer to as dilatory means. And being dilatory, I mean, you're just literally just like you're trashing good order in business. You're just saying we obstruct for the purpose of obstruction. And that's where Democrats are right now with regards to the budget. That's why we're in a shutdown. We're not in a shutdown because we can't vote on because they don't have enough votes for the bill itself. We've got that. We have to have 60 votes just to get past the filibuster and vote cloture and end debate so that we can vote on the bill. 60 to get to the bill, 51 to pass it. John Fetterman, Democrat. Pulse, National Pulse says, Senator John Fetterman on Tuesday said that he would break with his fellow Democrats and back a potential Senate Republican effort to abolish the legislative filibuster to end the government shutdown. He called it a carve-out. I do agree. I think it would be dicey to get rid of the filibuster overall because I think you need to have this, but perhaps there would be a carve-out here, is what he's saying. Perhaps there'd be a carve-out that says, okay, when it comes to passing a budget which keeps government funded and troops paid and law enforcement engaged and federal employees able to go to work and do the things that the services they provide are needed for, well, maybe that's a carve-out. Maybe there shouldn't be the ability to just shut down government on a filibuster. It's one thing to say we got more work to do. It's another thing to vote no on the bill. It's an entirely different thing to say we refuse to allow you the opportunity for a vote and we will shut down government. So, era of common sense. I hold it in my callous former paratrooper hands. Maybe this is it. So yeah, John Fetterman said, I would carve it out for that. Absolutely. He would support Republicans using a filibuster carve out to end the government shutdown. The comments come as the shutdown enters its third week with funding for programs like SNAP, which is, supplemental nutrition for the poor and disadvantaged and pregnant mothers. He said, there's no winners here. It's not getting better every day here. People are going to go really hungry. And I've been fully committed to fund SNAP and open up the government. He also highlighted the plight of U.S. Capitol officers, police officers who are having to be paid or having to work without pay during the shutdown. So that being said, era of common sense, maybe that's a John Fetterman example right there.
Well, I don't know if it's in your stack, but I mean, it may even be a clip worth playing later in the show. But I don't know if you saw Catherine Clark, the whip on the Democratic side. She did an interview where she said, of course, there will be families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leverage times that we have.
One of the few leverage. Okay. So yeah, people are suffering, but this is our leverage.
So pretty much openly admitting that they know they're doing this off of the back of American citizens.
How long did it take for her to get a call from Schumer saying, did you just say that?
Yeah, you said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, Thank you very much for using your inside words like outside words. All right, common sense. I am loving what's happening with basically pushing back on the illegal immigration debacle that we saw during the Biden administration. Millions and millions streamed across our border. We all remember the videos, right? Massive caravans of people. We had some that bum rushed the gate, you remember, and knocking National Guardsmen out of the way. We had mass crossings of the Rio Grande. We had crossing points like the bridge at was it Eagle Pass, where we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 people that hunkered down under that bridge and created an entire encampment. But what we got right now, Breitbart has a piece that came out that says ICE arrested 1,406 illegal aliens in sanctuary Boston, including murderers, rapists, and gang members. This is common sense. So they went into Boston, a sanctuary city, a place with liberal local leadership. Mayor Wu, I believe her name is. And the federal immigration officers and law enforcement partners arrested more than 1,400 illegal aliens during a weeks-long enforcement blitz, targeting violent criminals, gang members, and foreign fugitives hiding out across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now, let me tell you something. When you're having that water cooler conversation with somebody and they say, well, he's really not scooping up all the criminals. Okay, let's pretend that breaking the immigration laws is not a crime. Let's just pretend that for a minute. They're here illegally. You know why they're getting scooped up? Because the effort right now is not to go after those who have not committed other crimes. But what's happening is sanctuary cities will not allow for a detainer to occur for ICE to come into the jail and pick up the one person. So when the city picks up somebody on a crime, let's say shoplifting, let's say an assault charge or a vehicle theft, when they pick up somebody and identify them as illegal, they're supposed to notify ICE. ICE will then, that's called a detainer. They will detain them until ICE arrives. ICE can then walk into the jail, controlled environment, no threat of a crowd, no threat of things getting bigger or badder. Just walk in there, put the person in cuffs, walk them out to the van, drive them to an ICE detention facility, and take it off the locals' hands. Sanctuary cities won't do that. So what happens then is ICE has no choice but to go knock on doors and to go to the streets and to do things like at the Home Depot parking lot or whatever. And when that happens, it creates all kinds of what you might call second and third order effects, because they don't just hang out by themselves. Illegal aliens tend to congregate. They have a subculture in our country. They have a black market economy. They have any number of means of communicating with each other, and so they were often found together. And so if they go to arrest the one, a lot of times they're accompanied by 2, 3, 4, 5, 19 others. And ICE can't ignore them once they find them. So they're having to scoop them all up. So you can blame this on ICE if you want to. It's not true. It's the sanctuary policies that are preventing ICE from being able to just pick them up in a calm, cool environment inside the jail facilities. They have to go out on the street, and it results in more roundups. It's common sense, though. Think about it. The era of common sense, if you're here illegally, we're going to send you home. And right now, the Trump administration is breaking all records in that regard. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. I got a couple more common sense pieces you might want to know about. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
I said, why do girls...
You went to the Oracle.
I went to the Oracle, ChatGPT. Why do girls always leave the drawers open? And ChatGPT, is that something in your house?
Yeah.
Dude, I am going to have a panic attack over drawers and cabinets in the house. It's pure laziness, I think, is what it is. A lack of discipline and laziness.
I refuse to affirm or deny anything that you just said.
But it's just like a clutter bomb. I would almost rather stuff just be destroyed. It's just like a clutter bomb of mess, all this little knick-knack crap everywhere, drawers open. That, to me, that's what drives me up a wall, right? And it's not just it's my wife and all of my daughters. So I got
but
four
wait
women
until she's 14 and the boy comes around.
Oh yeah, I don't even want. I'm not even thinking about that.
So my daughter, who's grown and married now, my daughter, I'll never forget one of her first boyfriends. So my dad, career Army, highly decorated, 2 tours in Vietnam. My granddad, career general officer when he retired, the whole thing. So the kid comes over to meet the family. Granddad comes in. My dad, who was probably less sensitive than me in many ways and some of this stuff, he's passed away now. Agent Orange finally caught up with him. But Dad walks in, looks at him and goes, "Oh, look, are you the guy?" And we apparently have a father and a grandfather, both trained to kill. How do you like that? That was his introduction to the family. Yeah. But well, let me ask you this too. Being a team guy, did you ever have that moment where you came home and you're like in team guy, because you're like living in a locker room for a year on deployment.
Yeah.
I mean, you go over there and it's all rough cut humor and maybe crass talk and things. And then you walk back in the house and it's the wife and 3 little girls.
Yeah.
And do you have to retool yourself?
I won't say you retool yourself. You just flip a switch on or off. I can be more like me in front of my wife, than I, and that's okay. And she just gets mad at me, she'll get mad at me for saying certain things. But as far as the girls, yeah, no, it's definitely a shift because of their age, right?
Yeah.
There is an age thing, and I get that. But 2, because they are girls, and so it's just a switch you flip on or off. Like one of my, I don't know why, but the little one, I don't know who she heard it from one of her cousins, but she started calling everybody like the word that she used. She calls them a fartism. I don't know what a fartism is, but she heard it from one of her cousins, I think, or maybe her older sister. She calls everybody a fartism. I said, hey, little girls don't use the word fart, and my older daughter, she says, I've heard you say it, Daddy. And I say, yeah, I've said it. And I said, but it's different for boys and girls. And my wife said, it's the same for anybody. I said, okay, I'm going to stop you because you're wrong. I said, can a little boy hit any little girl? No. All the girls are. And I said, now, what about little girls? Do they hit little boys? You go, yes, we can. Mom was like, no, you don't hit little boys neither. But I said, but you see, we view it as different. Just as society views a little boy hitting a little girl or a man hitting a woman as different, society views what comes out of a young lady's mouth different than what comes out of a young man's mouth. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but it's the reality of what is. And it's a scriptural principle. It says, abstain from the appearance of evil. And for a young woman, abstaining from the appearance of evil, my wife could punch me in the eye and nobody would care. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I'm saying as a law enforcement officer. Because honestly, she might black my eye. A buddy of mine, him and his wife got in a fight, and he came to work. I was actually just training with him the other day. He's going back to the agency to do some stuff, but we're at in the SEAL teams, and he come to work with a little bit of a black eye and a little cut right here. And we're like, what happened to you? He said, bro, me and my wife got in a fight, and he said, I said something. And he said, she just punched me in the eye. I just started laughing, and it was funny. Right? We laugh at that. But if he had
punched her,
if he had hurt her, he probably would have broke her orbital. I mean, he could have actually. I mean, there's a good chance that if
he probably would have walked off the team too.
Oh no, not off the team. He'd been in jail. There'd been a whole process. But what I'm saying is, there's a level of difference because he can actually physically hurt her really bad. I don't care who the chick is out there. There are very few chicks. You might have a few that like are fight trained or whatever, but most chicks hit a dude. Yeah, you might hurt me a little bit, but you need an object to be an equalizer.
Yeah.
Most dudes hit a chick, you're gonna hurt them really bad. So I say all that to say it is different, and it's viewed differently for that reason. We view a guy that hits a girl is extremely bad, and a girl that hits a guy we don't think much of. We don't think much about. You view a guy that has a bad mouth, we might be like, I don't like hanging around that guy because all he does is talk bad all the time. I don't think he's a Christian. But think of the girls that you know that have a filthy mouth. You view them differently. And so that's one thing that I try to teach my daughters. That's one thing I learned from the SEAL teams, and trying to flip that switch on and off is there still is a difference, regardless of how our society wants to blur the lines. There's a difference in how.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Okay, don't forget, coming up top of the hour, we'll jump into the Grand Council with my brethren in talk radio, Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. Do it every Wednesday, every midweek at hour number 3, the Grand Council. So stand by for that one. It's coming. All right, I'm going to finish up this dipper I've got here on making common sense common again. I found several stories that just struck me as like, that is so refreshing. And that's this kind of news. When I heard President Trump say in his inaugural speech, and it really got to me, that he was bringing back the era of common sense. he may have called it a new era of common sense, but regardless, just the idea that he said it that way, something about it just like got me, and I appreciated it. So when you see certain stories, you look at it and go, oh, good, because that just makes sense. How about this one? Townhall.com. Townhall.com has a piece. So Russ Vaught, who is the director of the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, he is moving forward on President Trump's commitment that, okay, hey, Democrats, if you're going to shut down the government, you may not realize this, but all you did was open the door for me to actually cut government, because that's what's happening. Because here's the thing. In a government shutdown, there are some employees that have to be considered essential. In other words, you can't do without them. We got to keep them on duty. We got to keep them working. Law enforcement, the military, they're having to work without pay. Staff in the White House, the Situation Room, the Secret Service. You can imagine there are people whose jobs are considered to be essential. And the others, I hate to use the word non-essential, because technically the wheels of commerce in many ways slow to a grinding halt if some people are not at their jobs. However, they have to decide in terms of triage who to keep, who to not right now. Well, the president has pointed out that he has the ability to make decisions at an executive level. And he said he was going to downsize government, and he is. And he's using this opportunity now to say, if they're declared non-essential, then I have to ask, why would we bring them back? And Democrats are like, wait, what? The other thing is, this government shutdown, it actually can get in the way of contract management. If you got a construction project or a grant, or you got some other process of doing something that is funded by the federal government, which has oversight over your project, then guess what? You may wind up losing out. Well, I got a story here from Russ Vaught saying that, oh, by the way, the federal government shutdown on October 1st is now stretched for nearly 3 weeks. So because of the lapse in appropriations, he says, that provides for oversight of Army Corps of Engineers projects, we believe that our office and the Corps may be unable to provide adequate oversights of all the projects in the portfolio. And what they're saying is there are green energy projects that were funded by the Biden administration's efforts that are now about to probably be on the chopping block, because they are no longer considered to be manageable, because the Army Corps of Engineers is not there to oversee them. I'm going to tell you right now, that's just common sense. But it also is a great way to say, and we're changing that which should not have happened in the first place. Last one I got, in that same vein, the Trump administration began cutting staff at the Department of Health and Human Services in the Office of Public Affairs, or excuse me, Population Affairs. Population Affairs, what is that? That was the office that did a lot related to abortion and gender-affirming care.
Or like depopulation affairs.
Yeah, no kidding. Depopulation is right. All said and done, what it basically means is them that were on the payroll that were having a hard time getting rid of, who wanted to promote abortion on government time and gender-affirming care, Democrats may have just sealed their fate. Interesting. Common sense. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, the Grand Council. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
We view it. There's a difference in how people view it, and it's important to understand and uphold that difference.
And stepping back in the house, though, I mean, the decompression piece is good.
Yeah.
That was the place where, like you said, you can be yourself around your wife more than you can anywhere else.
And it's that never was hard for me, though. That was never it was for some guys,
not me
but
either.
not for
but
me.
It was great. It was wonderful to walk back in and go, ugh.
Oh yeah. That's what it was. It was a relief. I mean, it was almost
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But I do recall one time I'd been back from one of our deployments, not long, and we're late for church. And my daughter, who I think is 10 at the time, is still in the bathroom. And I go up to the door, and she's in the bathroom. And I called her Tootie when she was little. I said, Tootie, pinch it off. We have to go. And my wife leans down the hall and goes, did you just tell your sweet little girl to pinch it off? And I went, I did.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to retool some of my, to recalibrate some of my lexicon.
What you say, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. And I'm gonna switch gears here a little bit. Would you? Because I see the things that are in your life. I see the way you talk about your family. I see the way you talk about your faith. Obviously, I can imagine. I mean, my training was a lot different than yours, but I can imagine the dedication and the resilience it took to do the things you did militarily, combat deployments, what you're doing now with your businesses, which I'll get into in a minute. You consider yourself to be a mission-minded person?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, and I think that might just be a thing that men have maybe more so than, let's say, women. Women, and I've learned a lot about women because I have a wife and 3 girls. I'm around them now, so they're very relational. They're very relational, and we have a HR person that works for us. I've known her for a long time at Covenant Rescue Group. She's kind of our office manager in HR. Unbelievably relational. That's why we hired a female for that role. And men are not. And I would say one step further, yeah, I already have that more of mission mindset or complete the job mindset or whatever you want to call it. I would take it one step further with me. I do cherish relationships I have and friendships I have, but at the same time, the mission supersedes the man sort of thing. That's kind of and I definitely lean more to that than I do relationally, which is why I think God gave me 3 girls, is He's teaching me how to probably balance the relationship and the mission a little bit better than I have in the past.
All right, so
that's a long-winded answer.
No, it's a good answer. But let me take it a step further. So mission-minded. I mean, like for instance, me, radio, podcasting, practicing law. Those are things that I do, but I feel like I've got a calling that makes those things possible. So, in the mission-minded kind of theme of this discussion, how would you take all the things that you do and say, I do them because my calling is?
Well, it's ultimately to present Christ to everybody we come in contact with. That's what I believe. The eternal is far more important than the things that are not eternal. And what is eternal? The only thing that's eternal is who we are in Jesus, right? And so I do believe every aspect of my life, whatever it is, wherever I find myself, I'm going to work as hard as I can so people say, wow, you know what, his actions show something different about him, right? But that's not good enough. I have to let them know what the different thing is, and that is Jesus. That's why I generally share the gospel, anywhere we go. Anybody you ask that's worked with us. I had a guy from a church call and say, hey, so how does CRG share the gospel? We're not a Christian-based nonprofit. We're just a normal 501c3. I just happen to be a Christian who's the CEO of a nonprofit, and we have a bunch of Christians that work for us, and we'll share the gospel. Say, hey, guys, look, we're not a Christian-based nonprofit, but this is what we believe. If you need prayer, if you need anything, we do that with law enforcement agencies. So that is the mission. Here's the importance behind it, and Jesus does this perfectly. I do not. You're asking, I use the mission versus relational, mindset, and this is a good segue into it. Jesus succeeded in fulfilling the mission that relationally a lot of people didn't want him to do. That was to go down on a cross. So he succeeded in fulfilling the mission. Obedience to the Father, obedience to the point of death. Job 13:15, though he slay me, I will trust him. But he did it for the relationship with mankind. It was the perfect mix of the mission and the relationship. And that should be who we are. So the mission is, as a Christian, share Christ with everybody, because that is the only perfect mix of mission-mindedness and relational mindedness, the relationship mindedness. Now, my wife and my girls, unbelievably relationally minded. We'll let the house burn down around us, but if we can go on vacation as a family, then that's what we're going to do. And it's like, well, okay, we can't do that every other week. We're not billionaires that can go and do all this. But let me tell you what, they'll do that. And every one of my buddies say their wives are the same way, right? When can we go do this with the kids? It's just, and the movie that I like to use an example. Have you ever seen Old School? You know the movie Old School?
Oh, yeah.
So Vince Vaughn is in there. He's like, you sure you want to do this, bro? They're up on stage. He's getting married. She's like, yeah, what are you talking about? Be quiet. And he goes, no, you sure you want to do this? I mean, look at her. There's my wife down there. She's holding the baby. Look, she's just sitting there watching, judging. Look at the baby. as a unmarried guy, I never got that part. I mean, I always thought it was funny the way Vince Vaughn talks, just watching me, judging me, look at the baby. Now that I'm married, 100% get it, because that's it all the time, and because the family relationship is what they are so in tune with.
Oh yeah.
for
So we're
us-
grandparents now, by the way.
So even more so.
And my wife's grandmom name is Sweetie, which is
Yeah.
a perfect fit.
What's your grandpa name?
Cap.
Cap?
I'm Cap.
All right.
Cap
all
and
right.
Sweetie. But Sweetie told me yesterday, if we don't get down to see the grandbaby sometime soon, I'm gonna lose my mind.
It's like, hey,
And I want to see them too. But for her, it is way beyond
Exactly.
anything I could ever put my finger on.
But for you, it's your work. It's this mission. And it might be sharing the gospel.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on Hump Day. And you know the deal, y'all. We listen to the camel play at the beginning of the show. That means coming up at third hour, we jump on into a thing we call the Grand Council, where I bring in 2 of my brethren in talk radio who've been doing it longer than I have, and we ping each other with questions and just see where the chips may fall. So let me call the roll. Looking northward from 770 AM, 92.5 FM, host of the Dale Jackson Show. Oh, by the way, has a good gig with Yellowhammer and does some TV stuff, he says, once in a while. Dale Jackson, are you there? You are indeed. Stand at ease. Thank you, sir. All right. Looking southward to the Gulf of America, down yonder in Mobile, FM Talk 1065, host of the Jeff Poor Show, editor-in-chief of 1819 News. Jeff Poor, are you there?
I am present.
You are indeed, and we're glad of it. All right. I pronounce a quorum. Hit it, man.
Assemble the Grand Council.
All right, I got neither one of you on video today, so we're just going to shine your smiling mugs up there like a photograph. Let me just go ahead and throw the first question out there for Dale Jackson. What you got, man?
All right, here it is. Since one of us has some pretty big news today and everything's going pretty well for him, let me just ask this following question. How many Nazi tattoos do you have, future U.S. attorney?
Well, so I guess that makes up for the fact that I was about to ask you why you were the one wearing the giant inflatable genitalia costume down in the Fairhope,
Yes,
getting arrested for
totally
it. I have none. My body is clean and clear of all of those markings.
Okay, well, then let me ask the question in a serious way.
All right.
How in the world is the media going to flip around and pretend that this is not a big deal and that him covering it up is fine after they went through, and you know this as well as I do, you know this, they went after military people. They tried to fight all the extremists, quote-unquote extremists they could.
Pete
They
Hegseth.
claimed Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, he got removed from one of his units from an assignment because of his tattoos. I mean, this is insanity. This was not in the olden days that they made this a big deal. It was last year. It was this year, actually, that they made a big deal about it. And now they're just like,
All right.
no, he didn't know what it meant.
Remind everybody who this guy is and where he's from.
Graham Plattner, I believe his name is. He's running for United States Senate out of Maine, and he has a legitimate Nazi tattoo on his chest, which now he has allegedly cleaned up. He said all sorts of things. And I know it's weird to say this, but he's a Democrat with a Nazi tattoo that apparently has some issues with the Jews.
Yeah.
So this guy is just he's covering all the bases, which is probably going to help him get elected.
Well, and so back to your original question is, what's it going to be like watching the backflips and the strange yoga contortions that the press is going to have to go into to be able to explain it away? It's funny thing is, I just saw CNN actually covered it on one of the screens in my office, and the guy is actually doing an interview with no shirt on, which I thought was a little odd. But nonetheless, there it is. So at least they're covering it. But yeah, I mean, they're going to do all they can to make him out to be a good guy who had a misguided youth, and all of a sudden it's okay now. Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth's still going to get slammed. Jeff?
I think the Democrat establishment wants Janet Mills. Remember, she's the governor who got confrontational with Trump.
Yeah.
I think the media will cover this a lot because they don't. This guy is the talking points will be sent out to the usual suspects, and they'll make this guy unfit for office. It's an inside job. This isn't Republicans doing this. This is an inside job from Democrats because he's the Bernie guy, and he's running against Janet Mills, the governor there, who's kind of the establishment pick.
You know, it's funny you say that. That's a great point. The Democrat establishment is the biggest enemy to Democrat candidates of anybody. It's crazy. I mean, that's how they take people out left and right. If they don't like them, they just take them out. All right. Any other thoughts on that, Dale? Your own question?
Well, I think Jeff's right. I think they're going to come for him pretty hard. I just don't know if it works anymore for them. It seems like the wild ones are making their way through. So who knows what happens?
Well, this is a wild one, that's for sure. All right, Jeffro, what's your question, man?
Will Donald Watkins Jr. be taking over
Wow.
for Phil Williams on Rightside Radio?
That would be a hard no. That would be like a I didn't even think of it, and I wouldn't think of it, and no, we're not thinking of it. No, that's not going to happen.
No.
There is a succession plan, but we can't disclose it as yet. But the good things are happening. Not Donald Watkins.
He may be busy anyway, being the small business director for the city of Montgomery. I wanted to make sure he wasn't on your list.
No, didn't even make the short list or the long list or any list for that matter. But so, by the way, Donald Watkins, for those who don't know, that is, if you want to know what the strange leftist conspiracy theories are about Alabama, that's the guy. But he's also a convicted felon. And
this is his kid.
That's right, it's his son. But his son was also convicted, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. They were together, and they big names in Alabama. They used Condoleezza Rice's name.
Oh yeah,
to raise a bunch of money to recruit investors for some kind of endeavor. But one of the people defrauded was Charles Barkley.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten about that. Crazy story.
So the mayor of Montgomery sees it. I mean, there's no controversy in Montgomery right now. There's nothing going on there. It's a perfectly fine place. Sees now is the time to pull the trigger on his big rollout of Donald Watkins Jr. to do the small business development in his city. I mean, that's just genius, right?
Yeah, that was a self-inflicted wound. And didn't the city council already put it on pause?
The personnel board put it on pause, but then we'll vote on it next month, and we still don't know how that will go.
Wow. Okay. Stephen Reed.
The mayor can still do whatever he wants, right?
Does he have hiring authority? Does he have to get it approved? Is this a position that has to get approved by the council?
I don't know. I think it's going to be approved by the personnel board, so I think that's where it will die.
Okay.
But you know what? I mean, going up against I'd say Joe Reed, but Stephen Reed, but you are going up against Joe Reed by extension. I mean, the black power structure of Montgomery is the reason Stephen Reed's the mayor.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's also part of what's holding the Democrat Party back is the fact that Joe Reed continues to wield that authority like a club. They can't ever gain any ground because he's constantly, causing a revision of the rules to benefit his chosen candidates, including his son. All right, third question here. Let me ask you this: we're in the third week of the shutdown. Now, Jeff, I realize you're down South Alabama, but you got your finger on the pulse of things. Dale, you're in the Huntsville region. How hard is the government shutdown affecting the economy of probably the most government-driven city in our state, being Huntsville? What are you seeing? How is it affecting things? It's more of an informational question. What are you thinking, Dale?
Well, I mean, I'm married to a government employee who's home, so it's affecting me.
Yeah.
So not too excited about that. I've talked to a lot of government employees about this, and the ones that have 3-4 kids and send their kids to like a private school, they're not scraping by, but a couple months without pay, it's worrying them. For the most part, I don't think these are the people you really need to worry about. I mean, they can go and get bridge loans and be okay for that, understanding this is the cost of doing business, working with the federal government. The contractors are sort of the issue. I know some contractors have been laid off. I'm more concerned about, Private Jackson out in Fort Lewis, Washington, or Lieutenant Williams, not getting paid. But if they cover those guys, I don't think anybody really cares about these other government employees because it's just the cost of doing business. But I think it does have an impact to answer your question. I think it is having a full impact. People are, I had a buddy, we were going to go watch the football this weekend, and he told me, hey, I don't know how long this government shutdown is going to go on, so I'm on a beer furlough. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. So that's happening.
Yeah, I feel sorry. I talked to a friend of mine this morning in the same boat. He's getting a lot of honeydew projects done around the house right now. But
Yeah.
his point, and we were talking about some things, and he said, "Well, I got nothing but time," and he said he's going to be fine. But he said the exact same thing. He worries more about the younger employees that are at his office point. He's a senior guy. But Jeff, what are you thinking? What are you seeing?
Not a whole lot down here. No, I mean I don't hear from many federal government employees. And you know how I don't know how your talk radio audiences are, but it's just kind of like, well, we don't need this much government. Let it stay closed. Let it stay closed forever. But I think probably more to the east over on the Florida Panhandle. You have the naval bases and you have the Eglin Air Force Base. Probably more of an impact, but not really seeing much of it here in South Alabama.
Well, I think that I think we're at that point. We're on a hinge point because you're coming up. The military was taken care of by a shift in funds, but I don't think that can keep happening. And I think that we're looking at right now. And give me your quick and dirty on this because we got about a minute and a half. But my understanding is that there is a plot right now to do a carve out exception to end the filibuster rule for budgetary matters. What do you think about that, Jeff?
Never going to happen. It's leverage. It's leverage for the opposition. I've seen some Republicans respond to that question as it's a non-starter, I think.
All right, we're taking a break. We'll come right back. Round 2, Grand Council with Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, and this little old me, Phil Williams. Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You have to find that perfect mix of it. And that's why I bring that up is because, the mission mindedness that I have, it would go too far one way, and I would work all the time. The relational mindedness that my wife has, it would go too far the other way, and we wouldn't have a dime to spare because we'd be vacationing down at the beach condo every other weekend, right? And so you have to bring those two things together, and the only way they're brought together, and you mentioned it, what is the point of the mission? Sharing the gospel, because that's the only thing that helps these two things correlate or coalesce appropriately.
Awesome. Let me jump into your team time a little bit. I want to hear about it just for a few. Time in the teams. Let me ask you first of all, why Navy? I mean, was that like the lifelong?
No.
I'm going to be a Navy SEAL.
No. I actually want to be an Army Ranger. How about that,
Hey.
right? Yeah. So or a Marine sniper. Saw that movie with Tom Berenger. Remember that movie, Sniper, with Tom Berenger? I always wanted to be a sniper, Marine sniper, and then after seeing Black Hawk Down, I was like, I want to go be an Army Ranger.
Nice.
My dad took me down to recruiting office, and I was like, Dad, I'd become a firefighter. I was 18 at the time. I turned 19 before I actually went into the Navy. I said, hey, Dad, I think I need to do this. Dad just said, hey, if you're going to do something, not that military service is not special, but do something different. If you're going to go get a degree, get a master's degree. Go the whole route. If you're going to go to the military, do something special, do special operations. And Bush had just done the contract. You go Ranger, X-ray for the Green Beret, SEAL contract, PJ. So it was the SOCOM contract.
Call them SF babies.
Yeah, so when you're trying to up that number, so you don't have guys in the regular military going over there just trying to get anybody they can, get the top candidates. So I went and did that, and the hardest test, it was actually SEAL, Air Force for the PJ and the combat controllers. Then it was the Army for the X-ray, and then Ranger contract, or I think now it's called RASP, if I remember right, to actually go to battalion. And then finally was the Marine Corps had an 0311, 0311, their infantry contract, where you could go to screen for MARSOC after, I think, 1 year in the infantry. So somebody's probably listening. They could tell me where I'm wrong.
Were the Raiders standing up by then?
Yeah, they were.
Raiders?
They had just, I think it was 2005 that they had started standing the MARSOC Raiders up out of Force Recon. Not Recon. Everyone's like, oh, Marine Recon. Recon is a regular infantry, battalion that do some, different things. But I'm talking about Force Recon, their Special Operations Command. You get a contract for any of those. And SEAL was the hardest. So I just said, all right, Lord, I'll do the SEAL, and if I pass that test, because I had to swim, the run was a little bit harder, had to do more pull-ups.
Were you a big swimmer before you got there?
No, not at all. I could.
Really?
I mean, I could swim. I wasn't going to drown if I fell in the lake, but I wasn't a swimmer. I didn't.
You weren't drown-proof to that point.
I was not drown-proof, and so I said, if I can pass this thing, then that's the route I'll go. And it was physical, and then the written test. You had to score so high on your ASVAB, which is easy, and I did that, and I passed it, and I said, all right, Lord, I guess this is the route you want me to go. I got a contract. And, when I got the contract, I started training for 6 to 8 months, had nobody. didn't know any SEALs, didn't know anybody. I didn't know what to do, so I just kept running. I would run a lot. You know, I knew it was a lot of running. You know, I was running probably 16 miles 2 times a week, and then in the other times I was running shorter distances, you know, 3 and 4 miles every day a week, just training. Pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, doing that. My dad said, hey, you don't have to work. If you're going to go do this, good job, son. Live at my house, eat my food, and train and be ready. And then I'd go up to my buddy's lake house, and I would tread water with a boat anchor. I couldn't tread water with a boat anchor initially, but I got to where I could tread water with his boat anchor. You know, those little John boat anchors. There's not much weight, probably 15 pounds or something, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah, but.
And I would let it down with a rope, and I would tread water. As I'd pull that 20-foot rope up, I'd let it down to the bottom under his pier, and I'd pull it up, and I'd hold it over my head and tread, and then I'd let it back down, and that's what I would do. You can see he's over here laughing because I'm sitting here kicking my little feet like I'm doing it, right? And I would do that to train, and then a buddy of mine had a pool, and I would go swim in their pool every day of the week. I just swim laps back and forth.
I mean, how long was this self-training going on before you went down?
6 months, you know, so it's, you know, probably, about 6 months.
So what's
maybe a little bit longer.
I don't know the answer to this. What's the pipeline? So you took a SEAL contract, obviously.
Well, it's changed. It's changed a little bit now. So I'll tell you my pipeline, because the pipeline shifts it seems like it shifts every 2 years. I got a contract. I get slated for a time in the Navy, and then I have to pass the test to maintain the contract throughout the duration. So you go to MEPS just like anybody else does, went down to Montgomery, signed on, all that stuff. And 6 months, it might have been a little bit longer than 6 months, but they slate you for a time to leave for boot camp. So you don't leave immediately.
Delayed entry.
Yeah, so it's and it wasn't by choice either. It was just, hey, this is the time that we have for you to leave. And so I'm going through that process, and I have to continue to check into the NOSC or the little Navy area down there, go and check in.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right, we're back to round 2. Grand Council, Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson. Dale Jackson, first question, round 2. What you got?
All right, it was kind of mentioned before, all the stuff going on in Montgomery, but it sounds like we have a bipartisan agreement that letting people who do mass shootings and attempted murder out of jail on bond is a pretty bad idea. We have a law coming up to be updated in May if it passes the people's vote, which it probably will. The question is, why did they leave this loophole in the first place? Was that a mistake, or did they want to come back and fix it later just so they could do it? What's the story there?
Jeff, I'll give you first run. Your thoughts?
So I had one of the sponsors of the bill this morning on my show, Chip Brown. I asked him that same question, like, well, why do we have to keep tweaking this? And why does Ania's law say may and not shall, right? And he said, well, the lawyers looked at it and they said there were some 8th Amendment concerns with cruel and unusual punishment and unreasonable bail, and and that that's what they were trying to avoid. That they were trying to avoid that because they thought the ACLU or some SPLC or somebody like that would take them to court. The law would get they would have an injunction on the law and it would just get put on hold for a while. But he says they're going to look at tweaking it. But he said the law as it is now, I mean, that's what they thought was necessary under the 8th Amendment.
Well, so I will say this, not necessarily truly in their defense, but almost I would bet 50% of what we do in a legislative session is a revision to a existing law, meaning there's something to update, or there's something that needs to get tweaked, or you didn't see the second and third order consequences and now you can, so you got to fix it. So that does happen. But the reality is what they are trying to avoid created the opportunity for a mass shooter to just walk. And I know it's alleged he's innocent until proven guilty, and there's all that. But they've got an opportunity now to tighten this up, and they need to take it. The other piece of this is, and I got to go back and look at the rules about doing this, but there's a thing that we can do as legislators called seeking an opinion of the justices, where you put something in front of the Supreme Court and say, if we pass this, do you believe it will pass constitutional muster? And it gives you sort of a review of where the court will stand if you have to be faced with a lawsuit later. Anyway, I don't know if they can do that in this case, but they need to do something because obviously the loophole exists. Dale?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if they had comment on that. It's good to hear that they have, and they understand it, and looks like they're going to move this thing forward. But this is just complete insane. And again, the judge doesn't have to give him bond, does he?
No, it depends. There's usually judicial discretion on that, and the judge can also set the bond at a certain level. So, yeah. So, all right.
I mean, as opposed to being forced to not give him bond. I mean, he could have made that decision already. So this is the case of what I thought it was, just a judge saying, "Well, I'll let this guy out."
And it's also one of the more liberal venues in our entire state. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question, Jeff. What you got?
Aside from the run on penis costumes at Spirit Halloween stores all throughout strip malls in this country, what would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10 the success of Saturday's No Kings protest?
Well, you stole my question. That's what I should have gone ahead and done mine, but mine was basically along those lines. What did the No Kings protest actually accomplish? I don't know that they accomplished anything except giving us a great amount of fodder for our shows. Granted, it's a First Amendment right, so I got no issue with people out there peaceably just protesting things they don't like. But what I saw was nothing about solutions. All I saw was hate Trump and many times hate America, sometimes even hate Jews. And you look at it and go, are y'all aware of the idea that all your faces are going to be posted on some political mail out in the next 6 to 8 months as the midterms approach? I saw no benefit. I don't know what they gained except trying to prove that they still have a voice. Dale?
Constant agitation. They're keeping their base in a constant state of agitation, meaning they think it's easier to get them to turn out and do stuff, and that's what they're doing. That's why every month you see this. You would think it's laws of diminishing returns, and maybe with people who aren't already enamored with them, yeah, that's it. But that base is powerful. I mean, the entire argument Mike Johnson and even Katie Brett made was basically that the simple fact of this is we can't end the government shutdown until this thing is over, these protests, because the simple fact is they'll put our heads in a guillotine. That's a quote. They're allegedly saying. So keeping them constantly agitated keeps the left-wing base in control of the party, and I think that's what the point of it is, right?
That's a fair point. I mean, I think you're right, and it also is a clear indication that the folks who are actually maybe of the more sane within the Democrat Party are scared to death of the ones who are insane. And the ones who are insane seem to be growing in number. I got about a minute here, fellas. Let me ask you real quickly. Zohran Mamdani, still considered to be the lead candidate for New York City. Is he a harbinger of things to come if he gets elected? Are Democrats going to be glomming on to Marxist, socialist, Democrat candidates like him everywhere? Jeff?
They do to their own detriment. This is, George McGovern kind of tactic. I think that if this is what the base has been trying to hold off, it's just what we're talking about, what's going on in Maine in the last segment. This is who, given the people at the DNC that go and are delegates, this is the kind of people they're going to vote for. This is what the Democratic Party will eventually become, and it'll be irrelevant for a few years.
Dale?
Left-wing hellhole's going to left-wing hellhole. That's what they're trying to create. That's what they want, and they're going to get it.
So I got the thoughtful answer from Jeff, and I got the good, crass street answer from Dale, and they're both right. All right, you guys, that's it. Grand Council, one more in the bag. I appreciate both of you. Thank you so much for all you do. That is Jeff Poor from FM Talk 106.5 and 1819 News. Dale Jackson from WVNN up in Huntsville and also with Yellowhammer News. And just little old me every week, Grand Council, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
Do my screener, make sure I maintain that contract, and went to the Navy and went through boot camp. When you're done with boot camp, it's like 3 months long or 3.5 months, whatever it is. Go through boot camp. In boot camp, you have extra, because I had a contract for NSW, you have an extra training in the morning. So
Naval Special Warfare, for those who don't know.
Yeah. So you go, NSW guys had to go and train early in the morning, swim and run and all that stuff at boot camp. So we got up earlier. Everybody gets up at 5, let's say, or whatever time it was. We get up at 3:30 or 4, go over, do an hour of training, come back. Everybody's up at 5, making their beds, getting ready for the day for your inspection, normal boot camp. So we had extra stuff at boot camp to keep us ready, albeit it didn't work that well. I got in worse shape in boot camp than I was when I got in boot camp. And once you're done with that, they had something called scruff duty. That's gone now, but scruff duty is where they hold you, and then they take guys, and whoever's the top screeners gets sent out to buds to class up in buds in San Diego. And this is in Chicago, Great Lakes, Illinois, is where the Navy boot camp is. So after boot camp, went to scruff duty. I got picked up in the first rotation, and they send us out to San Diego, and there you check in, and you don't check into a class yet, because then they take the top screeners and they put them in the next class to sign, for buds indoc. It's not called indoctrination anymore, but at the time I was there, it was called indoctrination. And that's basically a couple weeks of prep for buds first phase, and you lose a lot of guys during that time. So that's the process. When I got out to San Diego, I classed up with class 264 and with indoc, made it through indoc, made it into first phase, and it's constantly a selection process. So out of the Southeast, they took, out of a couple hundred guys that screened, 10 of us actually wound up going to buds and maintaining that contract. And then when you get into scruff duty, there's a couple hundred guys there. There might have been 300 guys at scruff duty. Well, they took 50 of those guys that were the top screeners and sent them out to San Diego. So I was in that first run, and a lot of my buddies were sent them out to San Diego. And in San Diego, you might have a couple hundred guys waiting to class up, and they'll take however many of those guys to fill that next class. So they're always selecting, taking the top performers, because, again, they're trying to get more numbers through. The percentage still stayed the same as failure rate, but they're just trying to get more numbers into the teams. And so I classed up with 264, 366 guys with buds indoc. And by the time we graduated buds, I think only 11 originals graduated. Wow. And of the 11 originals that graduated, of 32 guys that I started with actually got tridents. I was one of those guys. I didn't graduate until class 267. So you get rolled for injury, performance, maybe both. I got rolled, and in 267 is when I actually graduated buds and SQT.
Yeah, we call that recycle in the Army.
Yeah, that's it. You're just getting recycled, but you only get one shot to recycle, and they might hold you 2 or 3 classes for your injury to heal, or whatever it is, but they'll throw you back into a class, and you have certain staples. So Hell Week is one. If you make it through Hell Week, you don't have to go through Hell Week again. If you make it through pool competency in the second phase, you don't have to go through pool comp again. If you make it, and then third phase, you'll have to start over.
Are there ancillary? I mean, in the Army we call them special schools, like additional special schools. And I actually had some Rangers some SEALs in my Ranger class. Yeah. So did you go to airborne school? Did you go to?
What else? So we go to jump school because we're all Hey-Ho qualified, all that. So, right. But we had our own jump school. Okay. Because the Army.
You're not at Fort Benning going through jump school, doing
No, the guys used to. But when they set the requirement that all SEALs be Hey-Ho qualified, we stood up our own jump school right there in San Diego at Brownfield, and we did all of our static line there. I've only got like 5 or 6 static line jumps, and then a couple hundred, free fall jumps. There's some guys that really get into it. They have thousands of free fall jumps, especially guys over at development group that jump a lot. Now we spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel and did a lot of that, but and we had a whole air ops thing that we stood up at Team 3 where we would jump in with stuff, and you can do advanced schools later, but a requirement to be a SEAL is to pass jump school, free fall school. And some guys wouldn't pass it. Some guys make it through buds and then they fail jump school.
That was one of the dreams I never got to go do.
Yeah. Free fall?
By the way, is that still considered a primary insertion technique for the teams? Is that?
No, I wouldn't say it's a primary insertion technique. There's some guys that have inserted into combat situations in Africa primarily via jumps, halo jumps or Hey-Ho jumps. The only ones I ever did was training, and so the
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all talk about this show. This show, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to, once again, what we call Fort Benning. Fort Benning! Big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Heck yeah. Oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Just the radio. And then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the whole World Wide Web. and logging in on the live stream of the show every single day, audio and video, places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, by the way, there's all you podcasters who catch it after the fact and just listen wherever you catch the show. The fact that you do means the world to us. I say all that thing about where all we are and how you guys catch it. I say all that because I want you to know that we can see it and it blesses us. So thank you very much for catching the show, making it something that we want to do every day. We appreciate you more than you can possibly know. Got a bunch of text messages. Listen, you guys have been amazing today. So I will go ahead and reaffirm or state again the announcement that I made earlier in the show is that as I word it, God has opened a door and President Trump has called. And so my wife and I have decided that our role is to step into this new opportunity. And President Trump today, the announcement came that he has nominated me to be the next U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. It's one of the greatest honors of my life. The very idea. There's still a confirmation process, and I can guarantee you Democrats aren't happy. So the funny thing is, I quoted several verses earlier in the show, and I gotta tell you. I mean, I quoted Jeremiah 29:11, which I memorized years ago. And it talks about the fact that God does have a plan for us, one for a future and a hope. So I believe this is part of God's plan. The other one is my life verse. I call it my life verse, Joshua 1:8-9. And this is the one that tells me that basically if I will live according to his standards, if I will meditate on his word day and night, that prosperity and success will also follow my way. But then he also says, wherever you're going, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will go with you wherever you may go. And then I quoted the third one that I don't know that I ever seen until today. As I was getting ready for the show, this verse came across my way, and I thought, it's perfect. It's 1 Corinthians 16:9. It's Paul talking to the church at Corinth, and he's talking about how he's going to take a little longer getting there. Then he says, for a wide door of opportunity for effectual service has opened to me, a great and promising one. And there are many adversaries. So as I go into my confirmation process, knowing full well that Democrats are not going to be happy, knowing full well that I've been attacked in my life before. And when I was even interviewed, one of my many interviews over the last 5 months, they asked me, Mr. Williams, is there anyone who you believe would not want you to be a U.S. attorney? I said, every Democrat in the state of Alabama.
Pretty much.
Exactly. And I meant it.
But at least we have 2 Republican senators, so the blue slip will not be an issue for you.
No, that's already in. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank God Doug Jones is still not up there and would cause any problems.
Yeah. So I guess I need to make some thanks here. I need to thank U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, U.S. Senator Katie Britt for their support, their unwavering support. I did not seek this out, but when I was asked to consider this, it then meant that their office and them themselves would have to be on board. And so I have had plenty of meetings with both. I know them both personally. I think the world of them, and it wound up being a wonderful thing. They passed it on to the White House. I then went through multiple other interviews. I think I had an easier time getting my top secret clearance in the military. But that being said, this nomination, the very idea that the president would put my name on a list and ask for the Senate to confirm me is just the biggest thing in the world. So it means that I'll be stepping away from the right side microphone. But I will also tell you, in the days to come, you're going to hear about the wonderful things that God is doing next, because this ain't over. Right Side Radio ain't going away. Right Side Media as a company ain't going away. It's just going to have a different voice at the microphone. One of which, by the way, is going to be JP. He's still going to be here.
Y'all stuck with me.
So yeah, he's still part of the daily radio and everything else we do at Right Side. And we will divulge to you very soon the succession plan for who's going to take it. And I do believe this is kind of like Dan Bongino. I feel like I'm like the Alabama version of Dan Bongino. He had an audience he loved. He had a mission. He had a voice. And then the president called. Yep. And he felt like he had to step away.
I've actually seen a lot of texts of people saying, first Bongino, now you. You know, they're upset about Trump taking away all their favorite radio shows.
I don't know about that. But anyway, I'm honored to be lumped into that category. How about that? In fact, what's funny, actually, it used to be Bongino and then me on the air.
Yep, back to back. Yep.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Well, the whole afternoon has now changed.
Yeah, 11-5 as President Trump has stolen.
Well, he's allowed it to be reworked. How about that?
Yeah, that's true.
Let me get a few text messages. Joe from Elmont just said that. He said, first Bongino, now you. At least Dale Jackson's not a candidate for being useful. I'm going to let that lay. Aaron from Madison says, you're in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you for your continued service, brother. Aaron from Madison. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you. Pastor Barnes from Hartselle, long text. I don't know if I can read this whole thing. He says, bro, Phil, congratulations on your appointment. Then he says very nice things. I don't want to read out like I'm bragging on myself. But then he says, God only speaks in and through his word. If he was still speaking to people, that would mean that scripture was incomplete. But so I listen, appreciate you, Pastor Barnes. Thank you for your thoughts and appreciate your congratulations. Paul from Huntsville says, congrats, Phil. Great news. Thank you, man. Junebug. I hadn't heard from Junebug in a while. Junebug from Hartselle says, my husband works for the Army on Redstone Arsenal. He's an engineer who provides technical support for soldiers in the field. He's considered non-essential, but I feel that his job is essential for soldiers. We are fine for now without pay, but we do have 2 children in college. Oh, there you go. See, there are expenses to be paid. I am more concerned for younger couples with children who might live paycheck to paycheck. Certainly, government needs to be reduced, but I don't believe a shutdown is the best option. There you go.
Also, she said before that she couldn't be happier for you. She loved the way that you follow the Lord. Just has great plans for you.
Junebug's the one I met at the Kirk Cameron event.
Yes.
You were there that night.
I was.
Yeah,
I met
right.
Junebug as well.
That was awesome. Clint from Tony checking in saying, oh, he just said Clint from Tony. Hey, Clint from Tony. David at Buc-ee's. David at Buc-ee's has been like, I mean, by the way, that's one of the fun ones. So David at Buc-ee's, here's a story for you. He's been texting in as David from Buc-ee's for like, I don't know, the last few years.
Yep.
And I went to Buc-ee's one day and I started walking around going, is your name David? Excuse me. Is your name David? Do you know a David? Is there a David that works here? I found him. And what was funny was he was working the front counter. And from a distance, I saw him and I thought, that's going to be him. And I walked on up and I said, are you David from Buc-ee's? And he went, I know that voice.
David may have checked me out before I started working for you. I was there all the time out there.
Listen, man, get you some brisket.
Oh, man.
It's real.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Golly. I mean, I used to joke about gas station food. Technically, that's gas station food.
Yeah, but it's at next level.
It's
how all gas station food should be.
Buc-ee's world is a world unto itself. But David at Buc-ee's said, Phil, I'm on my break and I saw the announcement on your Facebook page. Congratulations, you deserve it. I hope you keep Rightside Media going. It is. It's going, man. It's going to go. And then Bobby from Huntsville. Thank you, Phil, for all you've done for us. I know you'll serve well and represent us with nothing but class. It has been a joy listening to you in the afternoon. Thank you. I appreciate that, Bobby, very much. Birch from New Hope says, I'm an hour behind listening to Rightside's website. Congrats, Phil. Going to miss you on the radio. Make us proud. JP better not get a big head now that he has an in with President Trump.
Yeah. Psst, hey, Phil.
Yeah. Bill from Madison says, Colonel Williams, you are anointed and now appointed. Oh, thank you, brother. Says, God gave us a man for his faithful service. North Alabama, we're blessed and grateful. Listen, you guys are amazing. That's just good. What are you laughing at? You got a comment over there?
Griffith from Tuscaloosa cracked me up. He said, I've enjoyed the time I was able to catch the show and appreciate your insight. Most importantly, your Christian conviction. Put a bug in Trump's ear to hire Dale Jackson for an assignment in Cambodia. LOL.
All right. Listen, we're going to take a break right now. We'll take that break. Coming right back, we'll wrap it up for the day. I got so much material I didn't even get to today, but it was kind of important. Anyway, we'll cover more tomorrow. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Needed because we're at war in the country we're in,
Yeah.
so we didn't have to jump in.
So all right. I see the pipeline. I see you got trained. Let me ask you this real quick before I move on to deployments. So Ranger School for me, I went and it was all about patrolling and small unit tactics and and mountaineering and whatever else and swamp operations, and which was miserable and all those things were they were real.
Where'd y'all do your swamp stuff at? Mississippi?
No, down in Florida.
Oh, in Florida. Okay.
Yeah, Eglin Air Force Base. But that being said, later I realized I think more than anything I learned things about me.
Yeah.
And I gained stuff that was not necessarily what I would call military.
Yeah.
It was more along the lines of things that it did to me, for me, and taught me about me.
Yeah.
What about you with Buds and the rest?
Yeah, I mean it's I guess the most concise way I can say it is, again, a scriptural principle. David says, "You knit me in my mother's womb." God made you who you were before you were even born. He knew you, he knit you, he put you on this world for a certain purpose. And the New Testament tells us so that he's placed every man in his time and his specific dwelling so that he might reach out and find God. So he placed us here to find him, to be able to see this is who God is, right? The Godhead, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So I do believe that aspect of it, but he made you a certain way, right? He made you to find him, but he also made you a certain way to share him with the world around. I don't believe, what I've learned is I don't believe everybody's like, oh yeah, they trained you that way in BUD/S, or they trained you that way to be a SEAL. No, that's not what they're doing. Notice everything I've talked about is a selection process. It's a constant selection process. And even once you get there, once you get to a SEAL team, once you get to in an instructor role, once you get to development group for the guys that go special mission unit, it's still a selection process for those individuals. Even once they make it there, you have to continually perform. And I would say that for me, that's what it taught me. They don't train you to do anything. I mean, they train you in some ways. They hone you, make you better. But the end goal, especially for BUD/S, is to find, is this the individual that we want to become a SEAL? Yeah. For sniper school, is this the individual that we want to become a sniper? I'm already a sniper, right? They just find me. I'm already a SEAL. They just find me. I'm already a Tier 1, a Special Mission Unit SEAL, development group SEAL. They just find me. Does that make sense? And that's all of their processes that they're doing in every aspect. Then you get out of the SEAL teams. I'm already an operator, but the CIA finds me for the specific thing they want, or the DIA finds me for the specific thing that they want. They don't really teach you to become anything.
Who was it? Was it maybe Michelangelo who said that the art that he is sculpting is already in the stone? And I'm super paraphrasing.
He just reveals it.
He just reveals it.
That's exactly
his job is to bring it out.
I would say that's the biggest thing that I've learned is that individual, wherever you're at, wherever you're at within your community or whatever, that individual is already there. For me in the SEAL teams, I was already a SEAL. They just found me. And there's not many guys. That's why we have such a high attrition rate, right? And then you go to the next step, like sniper school. That's why we have such a high attrition rate at sniper school. These guys are SEALs, but they're not a sniper. That's why you have such a high attrition rate in development group for the guys that go over SEAL Team 6. These guys are already SEALs. They're top-level operators. But we need something different for this. Does that make sense?
It does.
So that's kind of the flow. And that's probably what it taught me, is that everything is finding out, are you the person that can be this? Not training you to be the person to be that, which I find interesting because, again, it's a scriptural principle. Yeah. And oftentimes I think we find problems in this world. We either desire to be things that we weren't made to be. We shouldn't do that, right? It's the guy with the 1 talent, the 5 talents, and the 10 talents.
Well, boys outside his gifts.
Yeah, that's right. If you're outside your gifts, you don't desire to be something that you weren't made to be. Yeah. And be the best thing that you can be. It doesn't matter if it's a dang garbage truck driver. My granddaddy, he's a farmer. He loves farming. He loves digging in the dirt. And I was at his house this morning, and that's what he was going over, showing me his plants that he built a little greenhouse for. It's a piece of plastic draped over some cross ties or some sawhorses with cross ties on top of it, because plants were $4.99 now, and he wasn't about to do that. He can put one seed in a little bowl and have 80 plants for less than $12, right? So he's in his 80s, but that's the way God made him. Are you being what God made you to be, or are you trying to be something else? And that's what the SEAL teams finds out. It finds out the posers. It finds out the frauds.
It does. All right, so multiple deployments.
Yeah.
Some, I assume, non-combat, some combat.
Yeah, so I mean, all of our deployments would have been considered a combat deployment, but not every deployment, like what I mentioned to you, the checking into Team 3, not every deployment.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, just making common sense like a superpower. I don't see John having the grades in yet, but there's somebody texted today. Has he got them in yet? Or
Yeah, I saw them come in. Yeah, may have to do
can
some
you find it
digging.
real quick for me? Let's check the grades real quick before we get done. I want to see what he's got so I don't miss it.
I saw them come in. Let me find them real quick.
All right, you find them, and then I tell you what, call them out to me as soon as you get them.
Here we go.
All right, what you got?
He said, JP, the king of Gen Z, gets an A+ for his absolutely brilliant performance. It says, however, today's champion, and then it gets cut off. So I assume that it's you. And rightfully so. So there you go.
Rats, John. All right. Get that second the text into us. We'll cover down on it. All right, let me go to the phones right now because you know who's on. It's our Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing good and bad all at the same time.
Good and bad all at the same time. Where are you at right now on the road?
I'm almost to Bowling Green.
Wow,
Getting ready to get off.
that's good. All right,
doing good that way, but kind of bad because we're going to miss you, guy.
Oh man, listen, I appreciate it, brother. Listen. I tell you what, one of the highlights of my day has been you calling in on a regular basis. So and I'll never forget the time when I had to miss the show because I had to be in Huntsville, and you texted and said, "Why aren't you on the air?" And I said, "I had some business." And I said, "I'm driving back." And you said, "Where are you right now?" And I said, "I'm at so and so on the interstate." And you said, "So am I." And so we pulled off at a truck stop and met each other.
Yeah, and I even offered to pump your gas for you.
Yeah, it's a hoot, man. It's very bittersweet. I'll be honest, it really is.
Yeah.
I said earlier, Charlene and I think of this as our Rightside family.
Yeah, and like I say, and if anybody thinks you're doing this for the money, they would be completely wrong because what I've been looking up on the internet as what you're going to be making as a attorney there, you would be better off to go be the truck, the car wash manager at Buc-ee's. Will be making more.
Don't say that. I just had somebody too text in and said, "How's it feel knowing you just signed up for a job that might be not getting paid right now in the shutdown?" That's sorry, but okay.
We might have to do a GoFundMe to keep you in business.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's going to be good, and there's a succession plan, but it does include JP, so you'll still be able to call in and harass him on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, that's what I was just telling him on the phone there. I'm very glad he's going to be staying with the show and everything, and then. And when he gets in a few more years under his belt and everything, as amazing as he is now, it's hard time what to be like then.
Well, no,
I appreciate that, Jeff.
It's absolutely. I think there's a prodigy on the other microphone right now.
I know there is.
Well,
I'm impressed anyway.
Well, and I'm going to go ahead and say, if you're impressed, that means it's good things because you're like a hard critic. So.
We disagree on a few things anyway.
Just a few. Well, hey, listen, we didn't get a chance to go into news today because the show kind of ran a life of its own, but we did talk about several topics. Let me ask you this. One of the things that brought up in the Grand Council earlier was, did the protest, the No Kings protest, did they accomplish anything at all? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they did. We now know who the biggest idiots are that's out there. We knew Democrats wasn't the brightest bulbs in the bunch, but now we know the ones who come out and everything. We can say, oh, those are the dumber Democrats.
We can. It's not just the nose rings and the pink hair that gave it away. They actually spoke out loud.
Oh yeah, and you're talking about this Obamacare thing and stuff. The price of medical stuff going up. Insurance charges you more if you're a drinker or a smoker. And I think they should charge the Democrats. If you're a Democrat, they should charge them more too, because they're not very happy people, and only happy people live longer and more productive and better lives. And so I'm thinking it's being a Democrat is even harder on you than smoking and drinking.
No doubt. Well, I think it's like not good for your mental health or your physical health, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, how many Republicans have therapists? I can't name any myself, but I know a bunch of Democrats have been just sitting on the couch a few times.
I tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and revise that. I think that there are Republicans who choose to go ahead and get the help they need, and so they probably do have therapists. That's why they stay rational and sane. It's the ones who choose not to get help that wind up going to the No Kings protests. How about that?
Well, according to what I seen on the internet and everything the other day, they was asking this one guy, he was pretty much a No Kings guy and everything, and they asked him what his profession was. He was a Democrat. He goes, he was a mental therapist. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the therapists need therapists.
Listen, you know what though? I've seen it. I've seen it myself. I used to work in the therapy environment as a counselor, and I have seen people that because they had issues in their own life, they felt that their way of giving back was to go and try to be a therapist. And you look at it and go, I'm not sure you can mentally detach yourself from the issues because you've got so many issues of your own.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of other things. These people go to college and stuff, and they're supposed to be the brightest bulbs in the bunch there. But I've met a few people out there that a kindergarten, they couldn't pass the smarter than a fifth grader. No way.
Well, we'll see. I'm trying to think what else we talked about in the news, though. Was there anything else we talked about in the news that was worth like bringing up right now, or no? Maybe not. It was
nah. We're just having a good conversation between friends here.
Well,
the news can wait.
Hey, how's Miss Carolyn doing? She doing all right?
She's doing very good. She's still having a little pressure problems, but she goes to her cardiologist tomorrow and find out what's going on here. So, well,
I'm saying it on the air. You have to pamper her and wait on her hand and foot and bring her whatever she wants, right?
Oh man, I'm already wore out from 13 hours of driving. Then I go home and I got to take care of her too.
That's right, you do. All right, brother. You be safe on the road. We'll have you tomorrow. All right.
All right, buddy. You have a good one.
All right,
praying for your family.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. That's just good. That's just one of those relationships that's just formed because of the show. You know it.
By the way, John's full grades came in.
Did they? What? Pray tell. What did they say?
Yeah, you'll probably see him on their side.
I see it now. Yeah. JP, the king of Gen Z, gets an A++ for his brilliant performance. However, today's champion is obviously the future greatest U.S. Oh wow, U.S. attorney of all time, the magnificent Phil Williams, with an A beyond perfect, A quadruple plus. Good Lord. Congratulations. You definitely earned it. And I'll definitely miss hearing you every day on Rightside Radio because you're the only talk show radio host that I tune into every day. And I guess now I have to text the show and say, by the way, JP, did you hear what U.S. Attorney Phil Williams did today? LOL. John from Huntsville. John, thank you. Appreciate you very much. We got a couple more I'll grab just before we go. Aunt Sister from Huntsville. Aunt Sister says, wow, congratulations. Thank you, Aunt Sister. Tammy from Huntsville says, great choice for all. Thank you very much for that.
She also said, God bless you, and President Trump has been right so far.
Well, God, thank you very much. TL from Huntsville says, hopefully your successors will have an easy laugh, a sharp wit, and exacting truth-seeking nature, much like you. Thank you, brother. Says, God bless you. Maybe you can be a visiting expert on your own show. I do. Maybe I want the title. I think I want Rightside Ruffian Emeritus.
Rightside Ruffian, yeah, Emeritus founder. Yeah, Rightside Radio Commander. I think that's still
is on my table over here. Yeah, can I display that in my U.S. Attorney office? I think I can.
I think you should. Yeah, you're the attorney.
I'll tell him to make me take it down.
Exactly.
How about that? All right, you guys. I mean what I say. I say what I mean. Every single day, I tell you, and it's true. Hey, there's way more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.